Welcome to MINDSHOCK. This is your host, Bruce McGuire. Today we are tackling Matt Walsh's defense of the moon landing. Is it fallacious? How fallacious is it? We are running the new MINDSHOCK logical analysis system, developed over several dozen hours with input from all the astute MINDSHOCK listeners. So I will play. This is the intro with all of the rules for the metrics. After I play the intro, we will get into the actual analysis. As always, if you find the MINDSHOCK podcast interesting and informative, want to help support logic and reason in a world where it is quickly going extinct, you can donate to our PayPal. Check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell for notifications. If you're not getting them, just like and comment on more videos. You could also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast, or requests. You could also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind. Leave them in the comment section, and we are rolling. This is the MINDSHOCK logical analysis, where debaters on any topic compete for Dunning-Kruger championships. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias in which people with limited competence in a particular domain overestimate their abilities. The Dunning-Kruger effect is usually measured by comparing self-assessment with objective performance. The initial study was published by David Dunning and Justin Kruger in 1999. It focused on logical reasoning, grammar, and social skills. Since then, other studies have been conducted across a wide range of tasks. They include skills from such fields as business, politics, medicine, driving, aviation, spatial memory, examinations in school, and literacy. The statistical model explains the empirical findings are a statistical effect in combination with the general tendency to think that one is better than average. In these Dunning-Kruger championships, this logical analysis will be scored across many metrics to measure who is the Dunning-Kruger champion, the height of confidence and ignorance. The scoring will be based on logical fallacies committed. Logical fallacies can be either illegitimate arguments or irrelevant points, and are often identified because they lack evidence that support their claim. There are many different types of logical fallacies. Some of the most common are the straw man logical fallacy, misrepresenting someone's argument to make it easier to attack. The bandwagon or appeal to popularity logical fallacy, appealing to popularity or the fact that many people do something as an attempted form of validation. Appeal to authority, using the opinion or position of an authority figure or institution of authority in place of an actual argument. Genetic logical fallacy, judging something good or bad on the basis of where it comes from or from whom it comes, instead of the merit of the statement or argument itself. Personal incredulity, saying that because one finds something difficult to understand, that therefore it's not true or lessens the likelihood of being true. Shifting the burden of proof logical fallacy, saying that the burden of proof lies not with the person making the claim, but with someone else to disprove. Ad hominem attacks, attacking your opponent's character or personal traits in an attempt to undermine their argument instead of focusing on the argument itself. False cause logical fallacies, presuming that a real or perceived relationship between things means that one is the cause of the other. Black and white or false dichotomy logical fallacy, where two alternative states are presented as the only possibilities, when in fact more possibilities can exist. Begging the question logical fallacy, a circular argument in which the conclusion is included in the premise. Anecdotal logical fallacies, using personal experience or an isolated example instead of a valid argument, especially to dismiss statistics. The tu quo quo logical fallacy, avoiding having to engage with criticism by turning it back on the accuser. The middle ground logical fallacy, saying that a compromise or middle point between two extremes is the truth. The truth is whatever it is, regardless of how extreme it is. The no true Scotsman logical fallacy, making what could be called an appeal to purity as a way to dismiss relevant criticisms or flaws of an argument. The special pleading or moving of the goalpost logical fallacy, moving the goalpost to create exceptions when a claim is shown to be false. Composition or division logical fallacy, or parts to a whole logical fallacy, assuming that what's true about one part of something has to be applied to all or other parts of it. Appeal to emotion, manipulating an emotional response in place of a valid or compelling argument. There are, of course, many more fallacies, but these are the basics. So the scoring is as follows. There is a baseline. The scoring on the baseline will be as follows. Standard garden variety fallacies from the master fallacy list will be counted each and every time a fallacy is performed. Every 25 fallacies committed adds 5 points to the baseline. Super fallacies can be achieved one of 3 ways. A single fallacy that is so incredibly silly it would be enough to make someone spit their drink out. Or a minimum of 3 simultaneous fallacies. For example, committing a straw man, false dichotomy, and circular reasoning fallacy with a single statement. Or 2 or more identical fallacies simultaneously stacked, like a double false premise. 10 to 19 stacked fallacies in a single statement activates a 10x multiplier, which will count as 10 super fallacies plus 100 regular fallacies. Every 10 will activate another 10x multiplier. Every super fallacy adds 5 points to the baseline. Fallacy combos. Rapid, uninterrupted streams of fallacies qualify for fallacy combo points. 3 to 9 fallacies in rapid succession qualify for 1 fallacy combo point. 10 to 19 back-to-back fallacies in a row activates the 10x multiplier. So a 10 to 19 fallacy combo will count for 10 fallacy combo points. 3 super fallacies in combination activates the 10x multiplier, with each additional super fallacy activating another 10x multiplier. 3 super dingers in combination activates a 100x multiplier, with each additional super dinger activating a 100x multiplier. Every 10 fallacy combo points result in 5 baseline points. Zingers. Zingers are quick, witty, or pointed remarks or retorts, demonstrating intellectual and comedic superiority. Every zinger subtracts 5 from the baseline. Dingers are the opposite of a zinger. It is a self-own, directing that at oneself. In order to qualify for a dinger, it would have to be something that would cause someone to spit their own drink out. A repetition of previous dingers is not counted as a new dinger unless repeated so many times it reaches the threshold once again for one to spit their drink out. Every dinger adds 5 to the baseline. Super dingers. Super fallacies are not necessarily dingers, and dingers are not necessarily super fallacies. But when both are committed simultaneously, this achieves a super dinger. The same repetition rule applies as for standard dingers. Every super dinger adds 10 to the baseline. The final score is tabulated based on a weighted average. The baseline score counts for 40%. The fallacy per minute rate, 40%. The FPM rate is calculated based on the total amount of fallacies committed throughout the entire duration of the debate. Super fallacies count for 10%. Regular fallacies, 5%. Fallacy combos, 5%. The weighted average determines the final score. Highest score wins.
All right, today was a long time coming. We're going to cancel moon landing deniers, those who subscribe to the theory that the moon landing was fake. I am finally addressing the subject on the show because I was provoked, and it's very easy to do, baited into this conversation over the weekend. I happened to mention on Twitter that I watched and very much enjoyed, for the second time, the movie First Man.
So we owe all of this to Matt Walsh watching the Hollywood film First Man. So this is the inaugural new system. We will be testing it out. Matt Walsh, right out of the gate, off to a good start with his circular reasoning, logical fallacies, possible false premise, and we will see what he will amass. Now, what I didn't say in the intro, there's two divisions. So there's the debate division, and this is the solo division. So this is the solo division since Matt Walsh is alone here. So obviously in the solo division, he might have a higher FPM than someone. How's that, Neil Williams? Is that better? So someone in the solo division will have might have a higher FPM, and being fair, they can't cross divisions because he has nobody else here to speak with. So obviously he's going to be talking a lot more than in a debate situation where there could potentially be 4, 5, 6, 10 people participating. Okay, so my experience with Matt Walsh, somewhat limited. I've seen little bits and pieces of this guy. He seems fairly logical, which is why I wanted to test run the system on him. But I'm not sure if this was the best test run, because we'll see. We'll see what happens. But this is the solo division. This is the very first solo logical analysis with the new system. So Matt Walsh, by default, will probably have to be crowned the champ, because there's no one else competing yet. Or we can actually hold off until one or two more people. I do a logical solo analysis on one or two more, and then we can see who is the Dunning-Kruger champion. So here he is defending, of course, the moon landing. He's already presupposed it's easy to debunk, prove wrong. He's already entered here with the goal of canceling so-called moon landing deniers. So he's not here to be objective. He's not here to be logical or neutral or scientific in any way. He's made that perfectly clear. His goal here, his agenda, is not the truth. It's to cancel. So it's also to shut down. Shut down people skeptically asking logical questions. All right, so let's continue here.
Which is actually, we watched it with the older kids who really liked it as well. The excellent biopic about Neil Armstrong star.
Biopic? So he's already presupposed it's already true and based on facts. We'll see if he can support it, but saying that without support is, of course, a logical fallacy.
Ryan Gosling. And I wasn't trying to start a fight, actually. I liked the movie, and I just wanted to say that. But this brought out the moon landing deniers, perhaps predictably, and I responded to one of them saying simply that I hate the moon landing conspiracy theory because it's not.
Oh, wow. He's already going to emotion? What does hate or love have to do with anything if you're discussing the truth? I mean, this is kind of weird because Matt Walsh supposedly, he's a self-proclaimed logical guy. His claim to fame, of course, is the documentary What is a Woman? So he can differentiate between the genders. But is that a low bar? In 2024, is that a low bar? Earthpond says, dude doesn't even know what a woman is. I mean, I didn't watch the documentary. I mean, did he not even know what a woman was? I kind of was getting the impression that he did know what a woman was, and that's why he made the documentary. But it's interesting, he's right out of the gate. He's coming out like some emotional woman. I hate this. I hate it. I hate it. I mean, people who can easily rebut something probably wouldn't even waste the emotions of hating something that if it's so easy to rebut and shut down, why would you even have the emotional investment to hate it? It's pretty weird.
Only baseless, but it also seeks to undermine the greatest achievement in American history. And that post got...
Wow, that's the first fallacy combo in MINDSHOCK logical analysis history. You rattled those off quick. Circular reasoning after circular reasoning. I mean, this guy is off to an impressive start here. Impressive start for Matt Walsh. 7 logical fallacies with a fallacy combo mere seconds after the opening. Wow. I think this is going to be a hilarious one. I hope everybody's sitting down for this. You should not be driving. You should not be walking on busy sidewalks. It might not be safe for this particular logical analysis. Just warning out there. Hopefully everybody is in a safe location. Because judging by the way he came out of the gate hard with circular reasoning, fallacies, false premises, endless presuppositions, I mean, this is going to be a doozy.
Hundreds of responses, and much to my chagrin, though should not have been to my surprise, the vast majority of the comments were from people who deny that the moon landing exists. In fact, I basically got ratioed on.
And so, of course, that's also shifting the burden of proof logic fallacy, because the burden of proof is on positive claims. The burden is not on people saying, oh, they didn't go. The burden is on those who claim they went. For example, if I say I went to Pluto yesterday, it's not up to you to disprove it. It's not up to you to try to GPS track my phone or find CCTV footage of my comings and goings or toll booth videos of me traveling in a car somewhere proving that I didn't go to Pluto. If I say, well, I have the telemetry data, I have thousands of reels, oh, oops, I lost them, but I had them at one point, you should believe anyway. And I brought this rock back from Pluto. It's a Pluto rock. Who cares that they tested it and it came back as petrified wood from Arizona? The burden of proof should be on those on those trying to prove I didn't go, right, Matt Walsh? I mean, the level of silliness here. I mean, Matt Walsh is kind of propped up as this intellectual by the Daily Wire. And to be fair, in the limited amount of interactions and clips I've seen of him, he does appear to be pretty logical. I haven't seen him humiliate himself in any way, let alone like this. Like this. I mean, this is pretty astounding for me. Because I would say, I don't even know if I'm 100% neutral, because everything I've seen on Matt Walsh up to this video was him coming off logical and positive and sound-minded. So I actually came into this with, I guess, I might have had a slight bias to him being a logical individual. I mean, of course, if he knows what a woman is, I mean, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't even know that. So he entered the equation already on the positive side for me. But he's quickly squandering, he's very quickly squandering any type of positive bias I may have had. Of course, I try to be as objective, logical, and neutral as possible, but like I said, everything I've seen thus far, he was pretty logical, pretty based, as they like to say. But it seems like all of that has now been completely squandered. I mean, he's coming out of the gate fast with fallacies. Will he end up being a contender for the solo Dunning-Kruger championship crown?
Twitter for saying that the moon landing happened. That's how bad things have gotten. Now,
again, presupposing that it's bad based on the presupposition in the House of Cards that it was already true. And not only that, but his own subjective opinion that it would be bad to be critical of something, even if it were true. How would that be bad? Because if they really did go, any scientific person would want people to be scientifically skeptical. Because if they really did go, they would welcome the opportunity to bring forth the evidence to prove so that nobody would doubt it. Because when you're proud of something and you did it for real, you don't hate people who want evidence. You'll be happy to provide overwhelming evidence so that they can share in your joy of a legitimate accomplishment. Is that what we're seeing here with the moon landing? Now, to be clear, I don't claim anything is true or untrue. I'm not claiming the landing did or didn't happen. This is just a logical, objective analysis on Matt Walsh's argumentation. How many fallacies is he committing? And how fast is he committing them? Because we have a lot of metrics now.
I'd like to think that my Twitter comments are not representative of the general public, but polling...
As if appeal to popularity is valid anyway. I mean, come on. Is Matt Walsh really this silly? I mean, this is insane. He thinks polling or popular opinion is representative of fact in any way. And if he doesn't, why is he bringing it up here? So again, if we're saying he is this high-level intellectual who's really smart, is he intentionally grasping at fallacies to try to deceive gullible people? Is that what's going on here? Again, I don't claim anything is true or untrue. This is MINDSHOCK, where the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure.
Says otherwise. The most recent survey I've seen, conducted in 2019, found that only about 60% of the public strongly disagrees with the theory that the moon landing was fake. And that leaves about 40% who do not strongly disagree with the theory that the moon landing is fake. 5% strongly agree with the theory. Another 6 or 7% agree with it less strongly. And the rest are, at least to some degree, apparently open to the idea that the moon landing never happened and was all set up on a soundstage somewhere in Hollywood, I guess.
Presupposing, again, all these false dichotomy, fallacy, circular reasoning, as if it's fake, it could have only happened at a soundstage in Hollywood. As if it couldn't happen anywhere else. I mean, the level of goofery here, though, is that Matt Walsh, you could also say this is a misuse of statistics logical fallacy, as if being open to something is a bad thing, which he presupposed already, as that's how bad things have gotten. I mean, is this goof just this triggered? And if he is, you gotta give him credit, because he has a pretty poker face. Triggered, not triggered. Just from his face alone, I mean, he kind of looks ashamed here. I mean, is he just some kind of disinfo shill and he actually is ashamed to be peddling this? I mean, I don't know. I didn't intentionally pause on this frame, but he appears to be highly ashamed here. I mean, that's just the micro expression reading I'm getting. Is he really second guessing the fact that he might have taken so much money just to shill a conspiracy that he might think is valid, not valid, regardless of his own opinions on it? But the level of goofery on display, I mean, we're just out of the gate. He's already racked up 19 fallacies and a fallacy combo.
Now, the very first thing that you should ask yourself when evaluating any conspiracy theory, because there are plenty of conspiracy theories that have turned out to be true, right? That doesn't mean that they're all true, though.
And who would say they are? Appeal to extremes, logical fallacy. Like, isn't that obvious? Like, why would he actually say that? Like, that's the question. You know, saying something that's true could still be a logical fallacy. For people that are new to fallacies, first of all, just because he's committing a fallacy doesn't mean he's wrong. That's the fallacy. Also, you can make a completely true statement that is still logically fallacious if it's not in line with a valid argument of a point that he's trying to make. So, is this, I mean, I can't figure out here why he would even say that. Doesn't mean they're all true. Who thinks they're all true? And even if there are people that think that, whatever small minority that every single conspiracy ever is true, I mean, this blatant appeal to extremes, logical fallacy, I mean, it's kind of pathetic. Even for a non-intellectual, who would be that pathetic to actually say what he just said? I mean, this is insane. I mean, again, I don't know. That could possibly be a super fallacy. But again, for the people that are new and new system, we are going to be erring in favor of the individual here, of the so-called player vying for the Dunning-Kruger championship. So if something's on the fence, I'm not necessarily going to give it to him. That could possibly be a super fallacy, but I'm not counting it.
So reflexively dismissing every conspiracy theory is very low IQ. But reflexively believing all of them is also low IQ. And so we want to be critical thinkers, and we want to take them on a case-by-case basis, which I think most people do. So, looking at a conspiracy theory.
Really? Most people take conspiracies on a case-by-case basis? The average indoctrinated Dunning-Kruger goof coincidence theorist authority-worshipping cultist. I mean, these goofs don't evaluate conspiracies on a case-by-case basis. Who is going to actually evaluate? Like, let's say Bigfoot came down from a UFO and visited your mother last night. How many people are actually going to evaluate that? Or are they just going to write it off because it sounds silly? So, I mean, again, Matt Walsh here. I mean, I didn't know he was going to be vying this hard. I mean, this guy's a contender. I mean, we're just getting started, but I think Matt Walsh has firmly established that he's not here just, for no reason. I mean, he's here to win championships. I mean, this guy is serious. He's coming out hard, and he is serious, and it looks like he really wants his Dunning-Kruger championship.
Very first thing you should ask yourself is how many people would need to be involved for it to work? And if the answer is...
Oh, man, that's definitely a super fallacy. I mean... Yes, Rune Thorson. I mean, he's getting serious here. He didn't come to play around, man. This guy's serious. He wants his title, and he's making a good case. He's starting off making a good case. So, according to Matt Walsh, whether a conspiracy is true or not depends on how many people would have to be in on it. So, I mean, this level of gopher, because all of the successfully covered up conspiracies that we don't know about, we would have no idea how many people were in on it, not to mention a lot of people can support a conspiracy without knowing it, so they're not knowingly in on it, which theoretically could be millions of people. Because if most people, especially indoctrinated through government indoctrination facilities, they tend to just believe authorities, or in the military. You get an order from high command. If it's part of some kind of conspiracy or not, you have no clue. You're following the order. There are conspiracies we're just learning about from World War I and World War II that were successfully covered up. They were top secret. Nobody knew about them. So these hallucinatory, imaginary metrics that Matt Walsh is pathetically grasping for. I mean, again, if his goal here is to make the most ludicrous, fallacious defense of the moon landing, if his goal here is to create the most amount of moon landing skeptics possible, then we have to give this guy credit. I mean, he's succeeding quite well here. He's doing really well, if that's his goal.
Is that a relatively small number of high-level, powerful people would have to be involved? Then your theory at least has a chance of passing the initial smell test. But if the answer is that the conspiracy would necessitate the close cooperation and secrecy of thousands of people across multiple agencies and institutions, then you're going to have to meet a very, very high evidentiary bar to make your theory even slightly credible. The one thing we know about...
Again, I mean, this guy's rolling hard. This guy came out swinging hard. So, I mean, look at his face here. I mean, is this guy being serious? Is this guy being serious? He thinks it would have to be a multiple. Like, where is he pulling these false dichotomy fallacies out of? The conspiracy could only be true if there were multiple agency involvement, and there had to be few people. Based on what? Where are these hallucinations coming from? Like, what is the basis of anything? I mean, is he practicing like a stand-up routine? Yeah, Matt's getting high scores here. I mean, this is just the beginning. We're just getting started here. I mean, he's really going to put this new system to the test.
Human beings in general, and human beings in government especially, is that they are very bad at keeping secrets.
Wait, what? People in government are bad at keeping secrets? So people specifically hired in the high levels of CIA and the military, he thinks they're just going around telling everybody about their top secret operation? I mean, this clueless goof. I mean, he's spamming false dichotomies, circular reasoning, hasty generalization fallacies out the wazoo, hallucinating that all people are bad at keeping secrets. Even people specifically hired for clandestine espionage operation. Oh man! I mean, is Matt Walsh coming for Craig's crown? I mean, is he trying to pull a Craig here? I mean, is he seriously trying to go full retard? I mean, with a straight face? Look at his face! He's delivering this with a straight face. So he thinks that all top secret operatives, literally all spies, all military generals, the top levels of the CIA, NSA, they're all so horrible at keeping secrets? Is this guy just on a lot of drugs? Like, what's going on here? He thinks especially people in government can't keep secrets? I mean, what is wrong with this guy? I mean, we're just getting declassified documents now from 2-3 generations ago.
And the chance of the secret being kept drops exponentially as you add more people to it. We all understand this. I mean, you tell one person.
Wait, we all understand this? Again, is he hallucinating? Making this massive false equivalency logical fallacies about people gossiping around a about civilian goofs gossiping around a water cooler at the office or at lunch in high school? Is he equating that with military or espionage operatives who would literally die? They would literally die if they can't keep secrets. I mean, the level of goofery on display here. I mean, Matt Walsh is coming for the title hard. If anybody was doubting Matt Walsh's ability to compete for Dunning-Kruger championships, I think he shut a lot of people up here. For anyone doubting the goofery of Matt Walsh, I mean, we can doubt no more. We can doubt no more.
The secret, it's very hard to get them to keep it. Tell 10 people, and it's extremely difficult to get them to keep it. 1,000 is basically impossible. So, what about the fake moon landing?
I mean, again, is he talking about, him sitting around at lunchtime with his middle school buddies about who likes who in school? Is he equating that with people's literal jobs, not just NDAs, as Mr. DeWan pointed out? Forget about NDAs. CIA operatives, their life depends on them keeping secrets. All up through the chain of command. Same thing in the military. All the way up through the chain of command, their lives are depending on these secrets kept. And this goof is hallucinating that they have the same psychology. So these highly trained military personnel on salary, he's hallucinating they have the same psychology as him and his middle school buddies in the lunchroom, or some people gossiping around a water cooler. The level of gophery on display. Awesome Town Matt says, Matt Walsh is giving me tons of ideas for movies like What is an Idiot? Like I said, I hope nobody's driving while listening to this or even walking on a busy sidewalk. I mean, this logical analysis is definitely for someone in a safe, controlled space, because my sides are already hurting and we're just getting started. I was not expecting Matt Walsh to come out this hard. I mean, he's having like a Buster Douglas moment here.
Well, this would require the coordination and absolute secrecy of the astronauts who are on these fake missions, and also everybody at mission control. It would also have to either involve everybody at NASA or a portion of people at NASA. And
wow, what a genius. Where is he hallucinating? It would have to involve everybody. Like, is it also going to involve the janitor? The janitor who cleans the bathrooms at some kind of NASA office? It would have to involve him? Like, I mean, I don't understand. Like, is Matt Walsh just receiving so much money that he doesn't care that he's humiliating himself to this level? Or is he actually legitimately unaware? I mean, has he even watched his own video back yet? I know some people never watch their own videos. Some people have said that. They don't go back and watch it. I would love to see Matt Walsh not only have a camera on his face as you watch the playback of his own video, but this logical analysis. So according to Matt Walsh, this genius, this intellectual powerhouse, either everyone at NASA would have to be in on it, or a portion of people at NASA. I mean, what a genius. Who could have thought of that? I mean, it's either everybody or it's not everybody. Not to mention, where is he hallucinating that everybody in mission control would have to be on it? If they're watching a screen at Houston, how would they even know that it was fake? If the feed was coming either pre-recorded, or if they really did have some kind of live or delayed live feed from wherever they filmed it, if it's fake, why is he hallucinating that everybody at mission control would have to be in on it? Why would you have them in on it? That seems kind of risky. If the conspiracy is true, why would you have them all in it? It's just so bizarre. I mean, the level of gopher here. I mean, I would postulate Matt Walsh might have a mental disability, but I actually don't think he does. I don't think he does. He comes off so astute in these other topics. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's like a strange type of Asperger's, or I don't know. Maybe he's an idiot savant and he's just savant at so many other things that it's not noticeable. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is wild. This is wild. I mean, where are these hallucinations coming from, Matt Walsh?
The latter is even more incredible, because that would mean that the secret was being kept from a bunch of people at NASA by other people at NASA.
You mean like every secret ever kept in every agency or military unit? I mean, like, what? He thinks it's incredible for people on the top of the food chain to keep things from people on the bottom. I mean, this level of goof, I mean, this is really something else. I mean, that might have actually been a super dinger. I didn't count it, but he thinks that people in high levels of the command or the top of a food chain can't keep things from people in the bottom within the same company. I mean, has he never heard of any company ever? Particularly government. Government's everything's need to know. I mean, even the president actually doesn't even have the highest security clearances. I mean, there's above top secret clearances. I mean, there's all different types of clearances. I mean, does he even not know what a clearance is? So he doesn't know anything about the way the government works. He's a political commentator. I mean, this goof's a political commentator. And he doesn't understand chain of command? He doesn't understand clearance levels? I mean, forget the government. I mean, take even a small mom and pop shop. They're not going to tell the janitor if they have some kind of top secret sale going on. They're not going to tell the janitor their strategy, their online marketing strategies. I mean, even the salesman, they might not know that corporate is advertising on Facebook. They might not know about it. Why would they be told about it? They have a particular job. The people at the top of the food chain have a particular job. I can't believe I even had to go over that. That's what's so mind-shocking. The fact that Matt Walsh is this utterly clueless, not just about generic chain of commands, but clearance levels within government. This guy's a political commentator. Like, what is going on? I mean, is he acting? I mean, I don't know. No
matter what, that's a very dubious proposition. It goes beyond that. Of course, now...
It's a dubious proposition for people at the top level to not tell grunts what's going on. It's a dubious proposition for a CEO not to tell some random interns what their top secret development strategies are. That's a dubious proposition. What is he smoking? I mean, that I think is a super dinger. Maybe I'm being too nice to Matt Walsh here. I mean, it's a dubious proposition for some random grunt not to know the top secret operations that the generals are approving. I mean, that's Matt Walsh's argument here? Wow. I was not expecting this. You got to give Matt Walsh credit. I mean, he wants that title. He wants that title bad. He wants it bad.
Knowledge of this conspiracy would have to go up the ranks in government. Not everybody in the Pentagon and White House had to know, but some of them would have had to know. And
wait, based on what? I mean, if there was some kind of a conspiracy, so there, I mean, there's so many different theories here. Again, Matt Walsh is so utterly clueless. Obviously, he can't consider different theories. I mean, he's so committed to this false dichotomy, black and white logical fallacy of if there's a conspiracy, it has to only be this, or there's no conspiracy. I mean, what if whatever, a few guys didn't want to lose their job at NASA and they staged it without telling anybody in the White House? I mean, supposedly NASA engineers and physicists, they're really smart people. Would they not be able to fool the White House? According to Matt Walsh, the White House knows everything about everything. I mean, the level of goofery on display here. I mean, this is truly astonishing. I mean, I am mind shocked, even if this wasn't Matt Walsh. The fact that it's Matt Walsh, I mean, supposedly he's got the basics down, but maybe not. Maybe not. Oh, man, it's crazy. Neil Williams says, when I found out Santa was not real, I was like, everyone is in on it. I mean, that's an interesting parallel, yeah. Awesome Town Matt said, this Matt Walsh video may be the best evidence that logic goes out the window when you are emotionally connected to something. Or he's shilling. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to make the claim that Matt Walsh doesn't believe it was faked. I mean, who knows what's going on with the shillery here.
Already we have multiple governmental entities working together on this.
Wait, where is he hallucinating that from? Does the NSA work with the CIA and the FBI on every single operation? Like, where are these hallucinations coming from? I mean, these false dichotomy, circular reasoning, false premise, fallacy stacks are insane. I mean, he's already up to 57 fallacies, 3 super fallacies, and 7 fallacy combos, and we're just getting started.
And keeping the secret for decades.
Like any other secret kept for decades. Again, I mean, there's some really interesting documents coming out right now, like declassified operations from World War I, World War II that nobody ever knew about. They're really fascinating. Yeah, they were kept for decades, of course.
Without a single leak.
And again, false premise right there, Mr. Matt Walsh. So this clueless goof, he couldn't even go on Google for 2 seconds. For 2 seconds to find the so-called leaks and whistleblowers. So, for those that don't know, there was a confession. This is Project Slam Dunk. Actually, let me scratch that. That seems to have been highly censored from Google. You're going to have to use a non-Google search engine to find it. Because apparently you can't find it anymore on Google. So my bad, Matt Walsh. But didn't Matt Walsh himself, didn't he himself have these exposés on Google and Facebook censoring? So if he did, I mean, I don't get any of this. Because if he's claiming here that there's not a single whistleblower, and he does, like, it's my bad. It's not a Google search, because Google, you won't find this on Google. Huh. Let me get the link, though, because I do have it here. It's on the screen. Project Slam Dunk exposed. NASA insider confesses on deathbed. I filmed a fake moon landing in 1969. I think I might have touched upon this on the MINDSHOCK Apollo missions series, where we went over... Okay, yeah, these are going to be some censored websites, so you're going to have to go on an uncensored search engine to find this. Let me get this guy's name. Okay, so Gene Gilmore filmed a video in 2020. He died February 13th, 2022. He made arrangements for the video to be released upon his death. Coincidentally, the video was posted on September 11th, 2022. And so basically, he explains that his father gave him a deathbed confession of Project Slam Dunk, an enormous logistical project by select military personnel to create a movie set in the New Mexico desert at or near Cannon Air Force Base. Presuming this is a true account, his most important point of all was that President Johnson attended the first day of this event, obviously to get the point across about the provenance of this very high security top secret operation. Everyone there had been warned to never say anything about what went on, and that nearly every one of them abided by that until the end of their lives. Probably numerous others are no doubt still alive, still living in fear for speaking out. Gilmore's father apparently took it very seriously, and obviously so did the son, keeping the secret until his death and then allowing the video to be released. Gilmore supposedly was a sincere man, someone who detested brazen lies as much as his father did. Obviously, the son, whose possession of these mementos of his father, photos, military medals, and his MP badge, proves the lineage, and that imbues credibility to his testimony. The video describes the most pertinent points of his father's deathbed confession. So it states that the time of the event, June 1st through 3rd, 1968. So Lyndon B. Johnson Library and Mausoleum actually has Johnson's diary. That's curious. So, wow, okay. Johnson's numerous deceitful and treacherous acts and related cover-ups, it is no surprise that there is no mention of his trip to Cannon Air Force Base in Clovis, New Mexico on any of those days. According to Gilmore's story, as passed on to him by his father, LBJ appeared on the first day of filming. That was June 1st, where his diary indicates he spent the better part of the day driving various people around the ranch and nearby towns, including his daughter Lucy, whose search for a new roll of camera film took 3 stops at Johnson City stores before she purportedly found one. The contrast between such an inane entry, one of many, on that day compared to others, which generally described more notable events, such as those for the other 2 days, is to say the least notable. The diary entries for that Saturday, June 1st, mostly consist of arcane references to the exact times he spent driving on Main Ranch area, driving east on Ranch 1 through Rocky Creek. While the pedantry was a general pattern of entries made, especially during his time on the ranch, it was much more prominent on that day. Practically the entire day was purportedly spent just driving around the ranch and on various roads, meeting neighbors and friends, including Judge A.W. Moorsund, for lunch, a longtime friend and business partner who eventually terminated that association for reasons he never explained. However, the story being told now might have something to do with it. Lyndon's well-documented penchant for deception and cover-ups might explain those ambiguous entries. As cover for several hours, while he left the ranch on the Air Force Jetstar parked on the runway behind the ranch house, he apparently left for a 90-minute flight, 450 miles, to Cannon Air Force Base. So Johnson had a personal government-issued Jetstar. He would not bother to spend very many hours there, just enough to make the point. Altogether, it would not require more than an hour or so for his appearance there, for perhaps 3 hours of flight time round trip, for a total of 4 to 5 hours minimum. The diary's mention of the dinner guests that evening included his Hollywood friends, Arthur Krim, Ed Weisel, Lou Wasserman, and special guests Gregory Peck and Henry Ford II. So keep in mind, this is his diary entry. This isn't part of the whistleblower video. So this is his own admission in his diary. Possibly actually occurred would have been unaffected by Johnson's possible presence between, say, 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. So close that they had become, with Johnson, Krim, and Wasserman, probably knew all about his trip, possibly even acted as facilitators to recruit Stanley Kubrick into the global scam back in 64 or 65, which is undoubtedly when Project Slam Dunk itself began, the building of the huge hangars which were described in the video as a movie set, obviously had to have started about the same time. Lyndon B. Johnson's presence at Cannon Air Force Base was not essential, of course, at least in the sense of supervising, micromanaging such an operation. His purpose in making such a midday trip would have been merely to be seen and heard by all the screen participants to signal the need for absolute secrecy, ensuring that such a brazen fraud would never be exposed. He probably did not need to personally elaborate on the severity of penalties that would be dealt to any whistleblowers, although doing so was certainly within his nature. Other Air Force brass would have already explained the nuances of the penalties to be exacted for anyone with loose lips. And given the inability to empathize with others or tell truths about anything, he would not concern himself about his orders to be kept silent, and outrageous actions ruined many lives throughout the force of government edict to keep such a major fraud pinned up forever. A sidebar: how military secret orders are delivered. Given the circumstance, it is fair to presume that the warnings were probably delivered along the lines of what Admiral Isaac Kidd, 2 or 3 days after the attack, told the USS Liberty survivors. In groups of 4 or 5 by rank, in low and sincere tones, he stated that he was just one of the guys, while taking off the 2 pairs of stars, both collars, and throwing them into a tin bowl to get their attention. After each surviving sailor or officer, many of whom were very seriously injured and on a hospital ship, also including sailors from other ships who saw the damage firsthand, explained in detail what he had experienced, Kidd returned back to the bowl to collect the stars and return them to the well-worn pinholes on his collar. It was at this point that his tone dramatically changed, suddenly, as he began delivering the following words in terse, passionate, and emphatic staccato-style delivery. Okay, fellas, I'm an admiral again, and I want each and every one of you to understand something. We're talking about national security here, not your personal feelings, not what you did or did not do. I could really give an expletive about any of that. You listen to me once, because this is the only time you're ever going to hear it. You are never to repeat what you just told me to anyone, not your mother, your father, your wife, anyone, including your shipmates. You are not to discuss this with anyone, and especially not with the media, or you will end up in prison or worse. So this is what Rear Admiral Isaac Kidd Jr. told to the USS Liberty survivors. So again, Matt Walsh just utterly clueless about how anything works in government or clearance levels or anything shielded under the guise of national security. And so I guess he doesn't know about this guy. Again, I mean, why not do some basic research? Why not do some basic research? It is kind of tough, though, to find even these accounts. But him hallucinating that there are 0 accounts, obviously there are some. Awesome Town Matt said, the irony is Walsh most likely told his researchers to Google responses to Moon and they just brought the script up. Dr. Jimmy Gold II. Hey, Bruce, are we going to get an Oklahoma City bombing series? It's difficult to find a comprehensive breakdown of the theories and assumptions behind the event. Yes, I've actually been working I've been working on the Oklahoma City bombing for actually a few years now, so you can imagine how comprehensive that podcast will be. All right, let's continue here.
But it's not contained just to government. If this was filmed on a sound stage, then the film crew, sound engineers, the guys who built the props, the studio or company that owned whatever sound stage they used, and so on, all these people would either have to be in on it or would have to be involved without knowing that they're in on it, which is even less likely. So,
wait, what? How is that less likely? Would it be more likely? Okay, hold on a second. So now he's hallucinating that nobody in NASA, so NASA somehow magically, they don't have any camera operators. They don't have anybody that can make props. They don't have anybody that could run a sound stage, even though you could actually see their own, I don't know if they would call it a sound stage, in their testing and prep work. I mean, they're in warehouses, they're filming their tests, yet somehow magically they have to go to an outside Hollywood company? I mean, what level of goofery is this? I mean, it's almost like Matt Walsh was intentionally trying to find the dumbest arguments possible. I mean, is it possible to think of something dumber than this? I mean, this is insane. I mean, this is absolutely insane.
Now we have multiple government agencies and...
Wait, how do we have multiple government agencies? wait. His house of cards is getting out of control.
Dozens, if not hundreds of bureaucrats all working together seamlessly.
Wait. And where are all the bureaucrats coming from? If one or two guys made a decision at the top of the command and then other people executed, there's no hundreds of and dozens of bureaucrats. Where are these hallucinations coming from? What? I mean, his false premise and circular reasoning and false dichotomy stacks are getting out of control here. I mean, this guy's almost at 100 fallacies, and we're just a few minutes in.
Alongside multiple civilians, some of whom work in the film industry.
Wait, what? Why would civilians in the film industry have to be involved? So all the guys filming the NASA, the moon landing tests in their warehouses and all that, is he under the impression they had to hire Hollywood people to film their own tests of testing the equipment to go to the moon? I mean, this is wild. This is absolutely wild. I really didn't know that Matt Walsh, like, even if Matt Walsh understands the level that he's humiliating himself, I mean, who would have thought that he'd be willing to stoop to this level of goofery? I mean, it's almost like he's trying to go full retard here. I don't get it. I mean, these are the arguments he's using? That if it was faked, they had to hire Hollywood people? I mean, maybe they hired Kubrick. Why would they hire random civilians? I mean, what is he smoking?
These are the two gossipy, least tight-lipped worlds in existence, Hollywood and government.
What? So maybe Hollywood, but not really, because out of all the Hollywood satanic abuse going on, how much of it was really leaked decades ago? It actually was covered up half decent. I mean, people knew it was going on. I mean, just look at the whole, what's his name? No, I totally blanked on that scumbag's name. Oh, Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein. There were people who were actually shocked at that, especially people outside of Hollywood. I mean, was Weinstein specifically named? I mean, before the whistle was so-called blown on him a few years ago, did the average person on the street know about that going on in Hollywood? I mean, there were whispers and rumors, but there are certain things that are covered up. Now, this goof is hallucinating that government is the most gossipy. And again, this is also a false dichotomy, hasty generalization, because he's hallucinating all government employees are the same. There's a huge difference with the top command in government, with the highest levels of the NSA, the CIA, the FBI. I mean, there's a difference between the people at the top and random workers at the bottom level who don't have any clearances and don't even have access to the information. Because there are obvious tests that people go through before they get these promotions, especially with psychological operations. They don't just put anybody at the top. Obviously, these are specifically hand-picked people. Keeping secrets is their job. This is what they do. All these leaks are either from people coming from the bottom or people hacking systems. They're not coming from gossip. From the NSA director himself is not standing around the water cooler telling all of the interns about their top secret NSA operations. A lot of people don't even know that the NSA exists. I mean, that's the level of goofery Matt Walsh is propagating here. I mean, this is insane. This is absolutely insane. I didn't think that he would be coming for the Dunning-Kruger title this hard. At this rate, I mean, we might as well crown Matt Walsh the solo Dunning-Kruger champ right now.
And yet, after 6 decades, nobody in either world has ever breathed a single word about this.
So, first of all, we have multiple people breathing a word about this. And then also, depending on what you believe, Stanley Kubrick making The Shining, would that classify as breathing a word about it by leaving so much symbolism? Now, maybe he was just screwing around. Maybe he was. But if he wasn't, that would classify as breathing a word. I mean, the guy turned into an absolute recluse after in the years after. So, I mean, could have been for another reason, obviously. But to hallucinate that nobody is breathing a word of it when there are literal deathbed confessions. Now, I'm not claiming the confessions are real in any way. I'm just pointing out the complete goofery. I mean, look at Matt Walsh's face here. I mean, he's coming for that Dunning-Kruger crown. I mean, he's coming. He's coming, he wants it, and he's probably going to get it.
Ever. But it's even more fantastical than that. You may be aware that the moon landing occurred, or was fake supposedly, in the middle of the Cold War. And that's largely why it was faked, according to the theory. But the Soviets...
According to which theory? I mean, there's so many different theories. Again, he's hallucinating. There's only one theory. I mean, that's the level of silliness we're dealing with here.
We're monitoring our space program just as closely as we were monitoring theirs.
Wait, he has all the high-level clearances to know exactly how closely the allegedly competing space programs were monitoring each other? Like, how would he know, like, the CIA is monitoring the KGB is monitoring the CIA, whatever, but why is he hallucinating to know the exact level of closeness of monitoring? I mean, even the highest people in there wouldn't necessarily know, because how would you compare unless you had all the top-level clearances on both sides? But apparently, I mean, I don't know. This guy's going full retard. It's kind of crazy. It's wild. I was not expecting this.
Inconceivable that we could have planned, set up, and executed a fake moon landing and pulled this ruse over on the public without the Soviets being fully aware of what we'd done. And yet, they never accused us of faking the landing.
Well, I mean, all these false dichotomies. First of all, how does he know they weren't aware? And what connection is there of making a public accusation, even if they were aware? I mean, this guy's a political commentator. I mean, is he that absolutely clueless? He thinks every government blows the whistle on every action of every other government, even if they know about it? What? I mean, that would have probably been a super dinger, too. I think I'm being way too nice to Matt Walsh. I think I'm just being way too nice to this guy. But, of course, Russians did claim that the landing was faked. Again, just Matt Walsh, apparently, and this is definitely on Google. You don't need to go to the uncensored search engines for this.
The Soviet Union never denied the legitimacy of the landing one time.
Multiple times.
In fact, at this point, there are over 70 space agencies around the globe. Many of them have their own satellites, their own probes and telescopes and so on. If the most famous space-related achievement in history was completely fake, then it would seem nearly certain that at least some of the people and at least some of those other global space agencies would know it, or at least suspect it.
And how does he know they don't? Like, Where's this hallucination that everybody who knows or suspects something has to go public with it? I mean, the level of goofery here. The level of goofery on display here. I mean, I don't know. Matt Walsh is coming for that title. I don't think he can be stopped. I mean, look at his pace here. His pace is impressive. I mean, he's cleared 100 fallacies. He's hit 3 fallacies with 12 fallacy combos. I mean, this guy's coming for the title hard. I don't know if he can be denied. I mean, his willpower to grasp that Dunning-Kruger title, I mean, his willpower here is just something to behold. I mean, the stream of fallacies here. I mean, again, it's like you have multiple churches in different countries, right? Are they all blowing the whistle on abusive priests? Of course not. Makes them look bad. So people in the so-called, if this is all a conspiracy and so-called space agencies are just grifts, why would they blow the whistle on their fellow grifters? I mean, the level of gophery coming from Matt Walsh, I mean, it's absolutely insane. It's like him expecting mafias to blow the whistle on each other. Why would they do that if it threatens their own grift, if it threatens their money train? It's just absolutely bizarre. Not to mention if there are string pullers above, if there is some kind of Illuminati, some kind of the Vatican, whatever, that are controlling these people in this government, and part of the scam is to fake the missions. Obviously, they wouldn't have their own people blow the whistle on each other. I mean, the fact that Matt Walsh can't even grasp this basic concept, I'm not saying it's true, but the fact that he can't even grasp the concept tells you all you need to know about Matt Walsh here, at least on this subject.
Yet no accusations have ever been made by anybody who would be in a position to actually know anything about this, which means either that many dozens or hundreds of conspirators in NASA, the White House, the Pentagon, and Hollywood were so brilliant and devious that they tricked even the Soviet spies who were monitoring them, along with every other global space agency, or these other agencies are in on it, which brings the conspiracy to thousands of people across dozens of countries and 6 decades. Now, this is all complicated by the fact that, according to the conspiracy theorists, the plot actually wasn't well executed at all. According to them, NASA did a shoddy job of pulling it off, made a number of extremely obvious mistakes. Mistakes that were so boneheaded that a bunch of people on Twitter can easily spot them just by a cursory glance at the photos.
Well, I mean, it's not that hard to see a wire pulling up an astronaut in an alleged video. I mean, look at this guy's face. Does he even believe what he's saying? I mean, who thinks he actually believes what he's saying? Or is he just reading from a script? He couldn't care less if his handlers are correct about what's in the script. I mean, look at this guy's face. I mean, what does he believe what he's saying? He just hallucinated they would have to include all these people, which 1, obviously it didn't. 2, even if it did, if they're all peddling the same grift, obviously not going to blow the whistle on each other. Like, what is going on? Does he actually think this is a good defense? I mean, this is possibly worse than Neil deGrasse Tyson's defense of the moon landing.
So this was a brilliant scheme pulled off by the most powerful entities in human history that anyone on Twitter...
Wait. He thinks that NASA, a couple people at NASA are the most powerful entities in human history? What? He thinks they're more powerful than Roman emperors, Genghis Khan, all these random kings and queens. I mean, heck, even random generals have more power than a couple of guys at NASA. Wait, is Matt Walsh actually serious here? He thinks a couple of so-called scientists, a couple of eggheads at NASA are the most powerful humans in history? How does he say that with a straight face? I mean, maybe he's struggling here. I don't know. Look at his face. It looks like maybe we're seeing the first sign of struggle of him trying to get this out with a straight face. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. This is bonkers.
Could look at the photo for 5 seconds and go, that was fake. Yep, totally fake. Now we'll get to those alleged mistakes.
again, with the shifting burden of proof fallacy. You could look at a bunch of Bigfoot photos. Oh, that's fake. Totally fake. You could. Maybe it's fake, maybe it's not, but obviously that has nothing to do with validity. I mean, this goof, it's like he's allergic to logic here. It's weird. Well, it's not just about NASA. Like, just think about the argumentation here. He hallucinates it's impossible to see that to call something fake from a photo. Now, the photo looks fake. Maybe it's not fake, but random people on Twitter, that includes PhDs, that includes photographers, that includes engineers, it includes everybody. I mean, and again, without falling for this credentials fallacy, it doesn't really matter, or genetics logical fallacy, it doesn't matter who it is. And again, he's spinning this all through the shifting the burden of proof logical fallacy, as if the burden is on the people to prove that it's fake.
Moment, but you see the problem here, I hope. In order for this theory to work, the conspiracy would need to be the most brilliant and well-coordinated and devious hoax of all time, and also the dumbest and clumsiest and most obvious. It would need to be both of those things simultaneously, which it can't be. And all of this means that before we even look at the supposed evidence, we already have a fake moon landing that is far more complicated and difficult and implausible than actually just landing on the moon. Hadouken! We have...
That was impressive. That was impressive. Wow. He just strung together some of the most fallacious arguments ever even attempted on any topic in history ever. That's like saying a serial killer who got away. That's a super dinger, baby. That's like saying any serial killer who's really, really smart, but he made stupid mistakes, therefore he really didn't kill all those people, and he really wasn't caught, even though he was. What? I mean, the level of goofery here. Obviously, it wouldn't simultaneously have to be both, although there are obvious holes. And what he doesn't consider, it's kind of like, again, the serial killer calling the police station, or the serial killer who wants to get caught. They could be intentionally making mistakes because they want to get caught. Or if this illuminated... Yes, Craig came out there with a toasty. For people watching the screen. I hope you guys are not just listening but watching, because I do have some cool graphics here. Awesome Town Matt said, Walsh is going to give you carpal tunnel. And trying to keep track with the fallacies, yes. I mean, Walsh, he's coming for the title hard. He's coming hard. I mean, you gotta admire the gumption. You gotta admire the tenacity of Matt Walsh's fallacy spewing. I mean, he's coming for that Dunning-Kruger crown hard. He's coming hard. I don't know if he can be denied here. I mean, he's on such a roll. I mean, he's pulling out the most fallacious arguments ever attempted. I mean, this is incredible. So again, obviously, if there is a revelation of the method or whatever, or just powers that be screwing around and leaving these Easter eggs on how obviously dumb anybody who believes this would be, or what Walsh, again, I don't know how clueless Walsh is, but there weren't people with high definition computers able to do frame by frame analysis when the moon landing was aired on television in the 60s, where, again, a lot of people didn't even have color TV back then. A lot of people were still on black and white. So, and very low res, fuzzy image on the screen. So obviously it's a lot harder to tell anything in those fuzzy images. And this goof is hallucinating. He's equating that as if now maybe the powers that be did foresee that everybody would be frame by framing high-res, high-def footage and exposing it, and they don't care. They seem to not care in the case of, again, 9/11 or whatever. There's some very, paper passports surviving what fireproof steel couldn't survive. But, I mean, it could be on purpose or not. That doesn't mean it wasn't fake. But he's so utterly clueless. I mean, just look at his face. He's so utterly clueless, he can't even fathom the possibility that there's multiple different reasons for any of this, even if it was fake.
An alternative theory that is by far and away more convoluted and far-fetched than the official narrative that it seeks to debunk. So Occam, with his razor, is spinning in his grave right now. So
Really? Another miss. Is anybody surprised he doesn't understand Occam's razor? Occam's razor only applies when there are two equal explanations for something. They're never equal. Even according to Matt Walsh, they aren't equal, because he thinks the side that's claiming that it's a hoax has nothing, and the actual explanation has everything. So already it's not an equal explanation, even according to Matt Walsh. So he thinks Occam is spinning in his grave while not even understanding Occam's razor. No surprise here. Yes, kill the bank. He must have watched Craig and said, "Hold my beer." Well, to be fair, he's still not going 10 stacks. He hasn't stacked more than, I think, 3 or 4 fallacies in a single statement.
what is the evidence that can overcome this enormous logical deficit?
The logical deficit is that he doesn't understand what shifting the burden of proof fallacy is. I mean, just look at his face. He doesn't seem to understand anything. I mean, just look at this guy's mug. Is there anything that he does understand when it comes to the moon landing? Or is he just that invested that his logic switch got so completely turned off?
Proof is there that the moon landing was fake. Well, let's take a look at the 3 big pieces of evidence that the deniers offer, and that have been all over my mentions on Twitter all weekend long. So first, moon landing deniers point to what they consider to be anomalies in the photographs taken on the moon. And they point out how you can't see any stars in the sky, right? And you should be able to, because they were in space. They say that the shadows are coming in at weird angles rather than straight and parallel, as they should be if all the shadows are cast by a single light source, which would be the sun. They point to the picture of the American flag appearing to wave as it stands planted in the lunar surface. They say that this makes no sense because there wouldn't have been any wind on the moon to cause the flag to wave. And finally, they say that footage of the lunar module taking off from the moon's surface is clearly fake because there wouldn't have been any cameraman left behind to take the footage. Now, of course, all of these points are very easily explained. The flag was not waving. There was a horizontal bar at the top of the flag. So there's the flag pole and then a horizontal bar with the flag unfurling underneath it. And
that's actually the first legitimate point he's made. I mean, look at his face. Is he accidentally making a legit point? Yeah, that was a good point, because there is a bar. Now, some of the footage still could be anomalous based on how long it was after they let go of it. But again, he's cherry picking these points while ignoring all of the, obviously, the mountain of evidence of fakery.
You can see this in the picture if you look at it. The stars aren't visible in the sky because they landed during the lunar daytime.
Again, circular reasoning fallacy, presupposing that they are already landing instead of providing proof of the landing. And with the star situation, this isn't that hard. First of all, some of the astronauts said that you could see the stars. Some of them said that you couldn't. So that's kind of weird. They didn't get their story straight. So again, I'm not claiming they did or didn't go, but it is kind of weird. You would think that they would be on the same page because you'd see them. Now, if the surface of the moon is that bright, though, and you would need to adjust for exposure so much, I mean, how would you see once you adjust for exposure? Like, you could actually do this if you take a flashlight or a glowing orb or some kind of lamp, and you put something on the lamp, you won't, like a tiny little figurine or whatever representing an astronaut, you won't be able to see the astronaut once you adjust the exposure level that you need to. So there's massive inconsistency here regarding on how bright the surface should be and what that means for everything else, not just the stars. But of course, he won't be talking about any of that.
The moon does have day and nighttime. You might not have known that. It does. And that's when the sun's light reflects brightly off the surface, making it so that you can't see the stars in the photo. And as for the shadows, there is absolutely nothing strange about the fact that they come in at different angles. Go outside on a sunny day and take a picture, and you will see exactly the same phenomena. The uneven surface, the angle of the lens, the perspective from where you take the picture, all will cause the shadows to appear that way. Again, anyone could go outside right at this very moment and confirm this point yourself. And how did they get the footage of the lunar module taking off? Well, that footage is from Apollo 17, not Apollo 11. They left behind a camera that was controlled remotely from Earth, and the reason why we didn't get that footage until Apollo 17.
Is there any evidence of that, the so-called remote control working across that vast distance? Because, I mean, what kind of a radio transmission tower would you have to build? I mean, there's one engineer that claimed it would be taller than the tallest skyscraper on Earth in order to transmit the signal. Again, I'm not saying he's wrong or right, but I mean, where's the evidence of the transmission?
Because they tried it on 2 or 3 other moon missions and it didn't work because it's sort of difficult to pull off a remote-controlled selfie on the moon. These are the easy, common sense, accurate explanations for what you see in the photographs. And these explanations make significantly more sense than the alternative theory. Okay, if they were going to go through all this trouble to fake the pictures, why would they neglect to add stars to the sky? Like, wouldn't that be the first thing you do if you were faking a picture?
Wait, first of all, okay, if the goal, because we're talking about 1960s here, so who's going to have a high-resolution display? Would you even see the stars, even if they were visible in high def? Would they be visible on some old black and white fuzzy TV box? I mean, I don't know, maybe. Maybe they would be, I don't know. But think about the manpower and the man-hours it would take to artificially add the stars. So he's thinking that if it was fake, they definitely would have put in the time instead of thinking, oh, people are stupid. They're either not going to know about it, or they could just say, oh, it was an exposure setting and not have to deal with countless thousands or tens of thousands of hours required to edit in the stars. I mean, this isn't rocket science, Matt Walsh. I mean, look at his face. He can't seem to grasp anything regarding the subject of the moon landing. Other things, maybe. When it comes to, I don't know, where is he on the climate grift? It seems he understands the climate grift, right? So he can apply logic there, but he just can't apply even 1% of the logic that he applies in other areas. He can't apply it to the moon landings.
Of outer space? Why would they pretend the moon has wind? Like the moon land.
That's a dinger. That's a dinger. He thinks. So he's making the false equivalency straw man that, like, if they're filming this in the desert somewhere, or at Devon Island, or in Antarctica, whatever, he thinks that instead of it being a mistake that there was wind and they would hope nobody would notice in the fuzzy black and white transmission, that they intentionally made the flag look like it was rustling in the wind. I mean, the level of gophery here. I mean, the level of gophery.
Deniers are the ones who bring up these supposed anomalies in the photos, except that their theory makes less sense of the anomalies than the story they're trying to refute.
But he doesn't even know what their theory is. Because you gotta understand their theory first, Matt Walsh, which he clearly doesn't, which he just proved.
Because the anomalies are not anomalies. They are very easily explained, and there is nothing mysterious or strange about them. Grand Canyon University is an affordable, private Christian university based in Phoenix, Arizona. They're dedicated to making education fit into your busy schedule, which is why they offer 270 of their academic programs online. From scholarships to academic support, GCU's graduation team provides you with the personal support you need to obtain your goals. GCU's online programs offer you the freedom to earn your degree on your own time from wherever you are. GCU is praised for its culture of community, giving, and impact. They integrate the free market system and a welcoming Christian worldview into all of their academic programs. Achieve your goals with a personalized plan and a supportive team behind you. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University, private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. That's gcu.edu.
I just wanted to leave that in there so you can see how it sounds when somebody's talking without making a ton of logically fallacious statements.
The second bit of evidence presented by moon landing deniers is the existence of something called the Van Allen belt, which is a zone surrounding the planet inside the Earth's magnetic field that contains high levels of radiation.
Again, just a ton of circular reasoning, logical fallacies without anything to substantiate them. I mean, where's evidence of any of that? First of all. Second of all, Mario, are you referring to the ad he just read? This part might be true. Okay, Yeah, so maybe the Van Allen belt is real. Some conspiracy theorists believe it, some don't. So again, he's hallucinating that everyone only has a single theory of the moon landing being fake.
And the deniers say that astronauts would be killed if they tried to pass through it. Now, this certainly would be a devastating point if it was true, but it isn't. The Van Allen belt does exist, and there is radiation.
I mean, just the spew of circular reasoning fallacy. I mean, look at this guy's face. It's like he's addicted to fallacies. I mean, this guy got hooked on fallacies. He forgot to study hooked on phonics. He's hooked on fallacies. And of course, even if you go to nasa.gov, I mean, clearly, radiation is a major issue. I mean, this is right from the NASA.gov article, Artemis 1 Space Radiation Research to Help Moon and Mars Explorers. Scientists are working to understand space radiation as NASA prepares to take astronauts beyond Earth's protective atmosphere and magnetic field to the moon and beyond. So in February 23rd, 2022, NASA is preparing to take astronauts to the moon. So I don't know what you want to read into that, whether they did before or they didn't. Regardless, NASA's own scientists are admitting that they are working to understand space radiation, but maybe they should just ask Matt Walsh, because apparently he's got it all figured out already. Well, why are they still studying space radiation in 2022 when Matt Walsh apparently knows about all the exact amounts, the amount of time traveling through, all the danger levels? Why don't they just get Matt Walsh on the phone? Why are they investing all these billions of dollars into trying to understand space radiation if Matt Walsh already figured it all out?
But the spacecraft passes through it very quickly. It's going very fast. And that minimizes the radiation exposure. And ultimately, the amount of radiation they're exposed to isn't much more than a couple of chest x-rays. So it's, you can be exposed to radiation without being killed on the spot.
Wait, is he under the impression that there are people who think that you can't get an x-ray without being killed on the spot? What is he even talking about? I mean, can anybody figure this out? I mean, I don't even know what he's talking about. Who's arguing that you're going to drop dead on the spot from a chest x-ray? Like, what is he talking about? And apparently he knows the exact amounts of radiation and how fast you travel through it. NASA doesn't. They're still studying. They're still working hard to understand as of February 23rd, 2022. But Matt Walsh doesn't need to work to understand because he already knows it all. He knows the exact amounts of radiation. He knows the exact shielding required, the exact timing to go through. He knows everything. NASA doesn't. They're still studying. They're still working to understand. But Matt Walsh has it all figured out already. I mean, the level of goofery on display here. And he thinks it's necessary. Like, who thinks that you're going to drop dead from a tiny dose of radiation? I mean, this is just insane. He's coming for the Dunning-Kruger title hard.
Radiation is mitigated and minimized. Third, and perhaps most commonly cited piece of evidence to support moon landing denialism is that we haven't gone back. As many people have argued to me over the weekend, if we really landed on the moon, then why haven't we ever gone back? Well, the first answer is that we did. We went back 5 additional times. So if you deny that we've landed on the moon, you are actually claiming 6 moon hoaxes. You are saying that this whole vast conspiracy...
Well, I actually missed the fallacy there. Again, another false dichotomy. There are some conspiracy theories that claim the first one was faked, and then they figured out how to go for real, and then they went for real later. But again, this goof, just the mental capacity is not there to comprehend that there could be several different conspiracy theories.
Was spun up and planned and executed 6 times in a row. So why didn't we keep going to the moon in reality? Well, how many times do you think we should have gone? I mean, would you find the story more credible if we went 10 times, 20 times? If you deny the first 6 times, will you suddenly believe it if we go another 6 times? Like, it's completely arbitrary. Well, we only went 6 times. How many times should we have gone? I don't know. 17.
I mean, the goof is just this utterly clueless. It has nothing to do with the claims of how many times you go. Although, comparatively, there have been hundreds and hundreds of so-called spacewalks. Now, maybe the spacewalks are fake, maybe they're not. But there's hundreds of them. And it has nothing to do with how many claims. It's what evidence is being presented. So if you claim 10 and you provide conclusive evidence of 1, then people might agree that you went 1. If you provide irrefutable evidence of 1 and you claim 10, people might only believe 1. So again, I mean, this is also a diversion fallacy and a red herring fallacy, because he's spinning all these other fallacies to make it appear that people wouldn't believe if there wasn't overwhelming evidence. Where's the overwhelming evidence? Why hasn't Matt brought it up?
The real reason we stopped going to the moon is that it's expensive.
Whoa. Let's stop this right now. It's expensive. I mean, it's expensive to go to Antarctica, but they kept going. Then all these other countries went. Then they started building bases on Antarctica. The NASA budget for the last 10 years combined is already the same amount as the moon mission budget. They're doing even more expensive things. The United States spent $25.8 billion on Project Apollo between 60 and 73, or approximately $257 billion when adjusted for inflation to 2020 dollars. Adding Project Gemini and the robotic lunar program, both of which enabled Apollo, the U.S. spent a total of $28 billion or $280 billion adjusted. So, yeah, I mean, this is wild. I mean, these claims are, I mean, it's like Matt Walsh is intentionally trying to come up with the absolute dumbest arguments possible. So if he's arguing they're trying to save money, they're still spending more money than ever before. So clearly, that's not an issue. And not to mention that they've invested so much money in going back to the moon anyway. There have been so many proposed moon missions to return to the moon. I mean, there have been many different rockets developed. I mean, they're supposedly going to go next year, right? I mean, that's the plan. They're always kind of saying that. But they already allocated the budget to already go again. Many times, every few years, they've already allocated the budget. So clearly, it's not because it's expensive or not expensive. That's not a factor. So what's kind of bonkers is this goof. He doesn't even have the basic budget numbers. I mean, this guy is so utterly clueless about the basic budget numbers. Furthermore, SpaceX, according to Weinsler and Sarang, 2021, on NASA's COTS-CRS program, SpaceX is 10 times cheaper with 30 times lower cost overrun than NASA. So 10 times cheaper with 30 times lower cost overrun. So they should already have bases on Mars if it's just a simple budget issue. Furthermore, is it possible Matt Walsh is this utterly clueless? He doesn't know what Moore's law is. Moore posited a log linear relationship between device complexity, higher circuit density, at reduced cost and time. In a 2015 interview, Moore noted of the 65 articles, so the Moore's law was known well into the 60s and before. I just did a wild extrapolation saying it's going to continue to double every year for the next 10 years. One historian of the law cites Stigler's law of epinomy to introduce the fact that the regular doubling of components was known many to working in the field. So higher circuit density at reduced cost. So not only is it cheaper, all of the circuitry is cheaper. all computer tech is cheaper than ever before. So first of all, NASA's budget, they have the money. They've already invested the money. It's already been budgeted. It's already done. So the money is already out of the question. It's already, that question has been answered. They have the money. And everything is so much cheaper now. For example, look at a basic smartphone today is so many times cheaper than it was 10 years ago, just like a regular computer. This isn't rocket science. I mean, literally, it's not rocket science. Yet this goof thinks they didn't go back because it's expensive? I mean, they're supposedly landing rovers on Mars. Not to mention, SpaceX operates at 10 or 30 times cheaper. I mean, just the level of goof. Can you imagine, like, how is he not embarrassed to even bring this up? But let's continue.
And it's complicated.
It's complicated. Wow. Because sending rovers to Mars, that's not complicated at all.
And it's dangerous. Now,
and there's the first 10 and 100x multiplier. Walsh just hit the 100x multiplier. It's expensive, complicated, and dangerous. So going to Antarctica is expensive, complicated, and dangerous. And instead of stopping, they sent more people than ever before and then put bases on Antarctica. So the level of goofery on display here, I'm actually, like, I don't know. I mean, Matt Walsh is going for all-time great status here. I mean, he's trying to get in the history books for Dunning-Kruger Championship here. I mean, it's expensive, complicated, and dangerous. As if it wasn't the first time, if they really went. All human progress is built on cost, complexity, and danger. I mean, just look, I mean, even in basic sports, they're constantly breaking world records. I mean, was the Red Bull jump, whatever, not expensive, complicated, and dangerous? I mean, the level of, literally all human progress has always been built on expense, complication, and danger, and continues to be in literally every field. I mean, is anybody else in complete disbelief that Matt Walsh is sinking to this level of goof? I mean, this is beyond full retard. This is full vegetable. I mean, he's going full vegetable status. I mean, he's going more of a full vegetable than Craig. I don't know if Craig would make these silly arguments this silly.
It's not as complicated as pulling off a moon landing hoax 6 times.
He thinks it's more complicated to film some kind of Hollywood-type movie, but not even as good, not even near as good. Some kind of crappy film is more complicated than going to the actual moon 6 times. Oh, man. Wow. I mean, if Matt Walsh is going to be this dedicated to going for the Dunning-Kruger title, I mean, maybe he might be unbeatable. I mean, he's entered the conversation to be among the Mount Rushmore of Dunning-Kruger greats. I mean, people thought Craig had this on lockdown. Matt Walsh has entered the chat.
But it's still, it's complicated. People died to get the Apollo program off the ground.
People died to explore every single place ever explored and continue to die. People die playing sports almost every day. Are they just going to stop playing because people die? I mean, think about the level of goofery Matt Walsh is exhibiting here. I mean, I really didn't think he might actually be vying for top Dunning-Kruger champ. This might be the worst defense of anything on any subject ever in the history of humanity. And Matt Walsh is the one doing it.
Space travel is fraught with risk. And as a country, we have lost the will to endure the cost and take the risk. It's true that, if you were alive in 1970, you probably...
Wait, lost the will to endure the cost and the risk? What are you talking about? NASA's budget is going up almost every year. I mean, they're literally funneling hundreds of billions of dollars into all of this. Wow. I mean, they're literally planning moon missions right now. Right now. I mean, what is he smoking? I mean, NASA, the Artemis program, is planning to land people on the moon right now within the next year or so. That's their plan. That's already been budgeted. The risk has already been established, and they already approved the program and are already moving forward with it. And yet he's saying that they lost the will for the cost and risk. The cost has already been paid for. The taxpayers have already been extorted. It's already done. Cost has already been paid. And they're already training to land on the moon right now. So the not just the Artemis program. I mean, do we really have to go through all the I mean, I think we do. I think we do. We owe Matt Walsh this. Oh, they just pushed it to 2026. Well, that's crazy. When I looked at this, I don't know, maybe weeks ago, they pushed it to 2025. Now, Artemis 3 2026 is planned to be the first crewed lunar landing. So the plans are already there. They already built all the equipment. They're already testing it. The will is there. The budget is already there. So what is Matt Walsh smoking? I mean, this is insane. And I mean, you could go on, there's various government websites. I mean, there were even 5, I mean, some of these are fun to look at. 5 lunar missions were planned for 2023. I mean, literally every year there are plans for further moon landings. They already extort the taxpayers, so the money's already stolen. They claim it's going into Program A or Program B for the moon landings. So let's look at this. I mean, there were so many moon missions budgeted and planned since the first alleged mission. And I guess Matt Walsh is just so utterly clueless. He couldn't even do a quick, again, this is Google. These aren't censored. All of these were openly admitted plans. I think there was even a Wikipedia article. Yeah, list of missions to the moon. So let's look here. It looks like they removed a lot of them because now they're all in the 2020s. Again, already all budgeted. A lot of them also apparently got canceled at a certain point, but they already got funded and planned. So there was no loss of interest, there was no lack of budget, nobody cared about the risks. So literally everything Matt Walsh is saying here is demonstrably false. I mean, the level of goofery here is so stratospheric. I mean, it's insane. I'm trying to find the official list because there were quite a few funded missions that they ended up not making it. But again, the budget was there, the desire was there, they already assumed the risk. Okay, here we go. So space, oh, this was interesting. So the Space Exploration Initiative had, the plan was to establish a permanent moon base by 2010 and landing a crew on Mars. So these were the plans. These were at least partially budgeted because they always say they need a certain amount of money, then they say they need more. The risk was already assumed. The interest was there. Countless man hours put into this. The Space Exploration Initiative was a 1989-1993 space public policy initiative of George H.W. Bush. On July 20th, 89, the 20th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing, U.S. President George H.W. Bush announced plans for what would be known as the Space Exploration Initiative, the SEI. In a speech on the steps of the National Air and Space Museum, he described plans calling for the construction of Space Station Freedom, sending humans back to the moon to stay, and ultimately sending astronauts to explore Mars. He proposed not a 10-year Apollo-style plan, but a long-range continuing commitment based on the three above elements, with a journey into tomorrow, a journey to another planet, a manned mission to Mars. So again, this is what it would have looked like if it was legit, even according to Moore's law. This is what it would have looked like. So if they went in the late 60s, early 70s, so then yeah, this looks about right. So late 80s, early 90s, there would be a moon base. By 2010, a permanent moon base and landing on Mars. Yeah, this plan looks pretty. It looks pretty reasonable. And so Matt Walsh is this utterly clueless? He didn't even know about all these other planned missions and planned bases? I mean, this is bonkers. I mean, he's this utterly clueless he can't check Wikipedia for 5 minutes? I mean, this is on Wikipedia. I mean, the level of gopher. This is just look up Space Exploration Initiative, and this is one of many. There were actually a whole bunch of other ones also. So, from the George W. Bush White House archives, so this is his son. This is the 2004 release. Our second goal is to develop and test a new spacecraft, the Crew Exploration Vehicle, by 2008, and to conduct the first manned mission no later than 2014. And you can go to, this is georgebush-whitehouse.archives.gov. So this is the January 14th, 2004 Office of Press Secretary release. President Bush announces new vision for space exploration program. So all these programs were already in place and budgeted, at least partially budgeted. So the interest was there. The budget was there. The assumption of risk was there. So, I mean, is it possible to make dumber arguments than Matt Walsh just made? I mean, he's up to 5 super dingers.
Probably would have assumed that by the year 2024, we'd be landing humans on the moons of Jupiter, right by now. But just watch any science fiction film from the 60s and 70s to get an idea of where people thought we'd be.
Well, do you need to watch a sci-fi movie? Why not just look at these NASA press releases?
By the 2000s. We didn't get there. Why? Well, because we lost interest.
Nobody lost interest. I just read through all of there's a bunch of programs that were budgeted, planned, countless hours of research and development. What is he smoking? There was no loss of interest. Not to mention, I mean, here's a couple other ones. Space.com, NASA's first Mars rover touchdown 25 years ago. The Sojourner touchdown July 4th, 97. So all of these space exploration plans all continued, real or fake. Here's another release here from Space.com. NASA has early plans to send astronauts to Mars for 30 days. So there was no loss of interest. I mean, there's so many different programs that were budgeted and planned. What is this loss of interest he's hallucinating?
And we slipped into decadence and boredom and
decadence and boredom? Loss of interest, decadence, and boredom. Now, by decadence, what decline is he talking about? Civilization has made these giant leaps in technology. Internet tech, computer tech, even rocketry, even for those that don't believe anything is exiting the Earth's atmosphere, just here on Earth, flat or not, just the advancements of tech. What decadence is he talking about? What is he smoking? I mean, maybe morally, but technologically? Like, what is this guy smoking? I mean, this is insane. I mean, he just went back to back to back super dingers. I mean, I thought Craig was the only one who could do these. I mean, this guy just hit a 10x and 100x fallacy combo multiplier. He just went 3 super zingers back to back, and this is his second time doing 3 super zingers back to back. Craig still has the record with 4, and he topped off the 4th one with an 11 fallacy stack. Obviously, you know, Walsh isn't quite at that level, but he's still hitting 100x multipliers. I mean, this is astounding. This is astounding. Boredom? He cited boredom as a reason to not going back to the moon. So, ignoring all of the planned moon missions and moon bases, clearly they weren't bored. They were actually budgeting for moon bases and planning them, going through all of this work to get them done. Now, they didn't get it done, but it clearly wasn't because of a loss of interest, decadence, or boredom. I mean, can anybody think of dumber reasons than that? I mean, I really can't. We gotta hand Matt Walsh's, yeah, his baseline's off the charts. He's going crazy on the baseline. He's racking it up like crazy. Keep in mind, fallacies, 25 fallacies is +5. Super fallacy +5, dinger +5, super dinger +10, fallacy, every 10 fallacy combos +5. But he keeps hitting these 10x, 100x multipliers. I mean, this is bunk. Can anybody think of dumber reasons? Not just dumber reasons, but clearly false dumber. I mean, this is false premises out the wazoo. I mean, I just went through all of the plans and budgeting. I mean, clearly it was not because of a lack of money or boredom or decadent. He cited decadence for not returning to the moon. I mean, if this goof believes that they're landing rovers on Mars, he's claiming decadence while simultaneously believing they're landing rovers on Mars? Like, what kind of a goof is this? I mean, this is a unique goof. We have to hand it to him. He's a unique goof. He really is.
Now, to top it all off, IQ scores are declining. And
IQ scores are declining. Okay. Wow. Wow. I mean, this is bonkers. So this would be a red herring, diversion, false dichotomy, logical fallacy stack. That's a super fallacy. I didn't give it to him here, but wow. So here's the thing. IQ scores are declining for the bottom, let's say 99%. But the top 1%, the ones that are driving every single field, the ones that are allegedly landing rovers on Mars and planning all this, theirs are not declining, and they're the ones driving the industry up. So this is completely non-applicable. So this is a red herring and diversion fallacy. I mean, it's also one of the most extreme ones I've ever seen. That's like saying the average human is getting slower. Even though Usain Bolt is breaking world records, it is accurate to say that humans are getting slower. They're getting fatter and slower. But that doesn't mean that Usain Bolt and other people aren't shattering world records being the fastest humans in history. So the level of goofery on display here, I mean, it's astounding. Just like the strongest power lifters just breaking records, lifting the greatest weights, while the average human is getting weaker. Both of those are true statements. But is Matt Walsh just bored? I mean, is he really this much of a vegetable that he can't understand that the bottom 99% whose IQ scores are declining, they're not the ones in the field of space exploration. So it doesn't matter. Just like the bottom 99% of humans getting slower and weaker, that's irrelevant because people are still setting records in speed and strength. Just like if the moon landings were legitimate, according to Moore's law anyway, there'd already be bases on the moon and Mars.
People are generally becoming less competent and less skilled. In 1970, we were...
Again, less competent and less skilled. Yes, the average person, which has nothing to do with pioneers of every field. Just like computers are getting faster and cheaper, even though people are getting dumber. What's the connection?
Sending rockets to the moon. That's true. Do you know what else we were doing? We were flying commercial supersonic passenger jets that could make it from New York to London in 3 hours. And if you were on one of those jets 50 years ago, you would have assumed that by 2024, we'd have the technology to go from New York to London in 3 minutes. Right?
No, not right. Not 3 minutes, but way faster. And there are records being shattered all the time. I mean, is this goof really hallucinating that technology went backward just because they retired the Concorde? This is a real, I mean, at this point, I'm not surprised that he brought this up. But I mean, there are literal records being made here. So supposedly, Virgin Galactic is launching suborbital commercial space flights in 2023. And is he this clueless he doesn't know about Virgin Galactic? I mean, this is a political commentator talking about the news. Is he this utterly clueless? He doesn't know that there have been commercial so-called space flights. I mean, obviously, some people are disputing exactly how high they went, whatever. But, I mean, supposedly it was clocked at these incredible speeds. I mean, let's look at the exact speed here. While Matt Walsh hallucinates, progress has not been made in commercial flights. So space.com here, November 2nd, 2023. Galactic 05 was the company's 6th space mission in as many months. Altitude 44,701 feet. Space plane reached a top speed of Mach 2.96, nearly 3 times the speed of sound. Supposedly, the max speed of the Concorde was Mach 2.04. So, marked improvement in speed. So, commercial flights getting faster and faster. Just because the Concorde doesn't exist doesn't mean that records aren't being smashed. Space.com, NASA's Parker Solar Probe smashes record for fastest human-made object, October 18, 2023. NASA's Parker Solar Probe has reached a record-breaking speed as it gets a gravitational assist from Venus to fall closer to the sun's scorching surface. Previous speed record was 364,660, November 2021. September 27th, it reached 394,736. So some people think that's all fake, which is fine. But Matt Walsh is a true believer. So according to his own religion of scientism, according to his Church of NASA, they're smashing records. So he's hallucinating that they're not? Yes, kill the bank. I would like to see Steven Seagal confront Matt Walsh and his goofery here. Like, I just don't understand what he's smoking. So because the Concorde is they retired the Concorde, he thinks technology went backwards when it demonstrably went forwards, even according to his own Church of NASA?
Instead, we went the other way. The fastest passenger jet today that's operational will get you there in about 7 hours.
So this is a cherry-picking logical fallacy because he's only looking at the distance between New York to London on a regular passenger flight. He's not looking at all this other incredible technology like Virgin Galactic and just all of this new rocket technology. I mean, just the progress that has been made since then is insane. But he's obsessed with hallucinating that this cherry-picking fallacy at only looking at a regular commercial flight between New York and London or whatever, regular commercial flights, he's only looking at those few flights and using that as a metric to hallucinate that somehow technology went backwards here on Earth. What? I mean, I have to appreciate his ability to seemingly get dumber and dumber.
Okay, our technology seems to have regressed.
By regressed, he means all these new records? Does he even know what the word regressed means? To go backward. So he has this one cherry-picked example, this one anecdotal logical fallacy. And he's hallucinating that means all technology went backward? What? Does he not know? I mean, he believes in NASA, so does he not know about all their new record speeds, record technology advancements that he supposedly he would believe if he believes in NASA? I mean, is anybody surprised that this goof doesn't even have logical consistency? I mean, this is insane. He doesn't even have basic consistency. But NASA aside, I mean, Virgin Galactic is doing commercial space flights now. And all he can mention is the one Concorde flight?
Is that proof that the Concorde never existed? Does that mean that supersonic air travel was a hoax? No.
What? He just compared the Concorde, which had 50,000 flights, with 2.5 million passengers over 27 years, with countless empirically verifiable evidence and documentation, with 12 guys that allegedly walked on the moon between 1969 and 1972 for 6 missions. So this goof just equated almost 50,000 flights, 2.5 million passengers, 2.5 million empirically verifiable documented passengers, with 6 alleged moon missions and 12 guys, while strawmanning that people are saying that commercial, that they, what? I mean, wow. All I could say is wow. I mean, this guy's going to have the solo title, and he's going to deserve it. Now, the question is, does anybody think someone can make dumber arguments as quickly as Matt Walsh just did here? He just racked up 240 fallacies like it was nothing. 11 super dingers. I mean, he's firmly entered Craig territory. I mean, this is wild. This is wild. Did anybody else anticipate this level of goofery? Who's denying supersonic travel? I mean, if you're of a certain age, you probably knew people that took the Concorde. I mean, even took videos of it while they were on it. I mean, who's denying that? I mean, he just compared 2.5 million people to 12. I mean, the level of goofery here. I mean, I didn't anticipate this. I mean, hats off to Matt Walsh. Hats off here. I mean, this is his Buster Douglas moment.
Oh, it just means that the supersonic air travel was, again, expensive and difficult and cumbersome.
Cumbersome? What? The Concorde was smaller and more nimble than an average airliner. I mean, right from the press release here, unlike its subsonic predecessors, the Concorde does not require heavy investment by the airports in runway extensions and improved terminal facilities. The Concorde's modest size have ensured virtually total compatibility with existing equipment. So, this is the opposite of cumbersome. Does this goof not know what the word? He doesn't know what the word cumbersome means. I mean, what? Was anybody else expecting Matt Walsh to go this? I mean, this is beyond full retard. He's going full vegetable. He's going full vegetable over the Concorde. I mean, I was possibly expecting some kind of wild antics over some kind of space claims. He's going full vegetable over the Concorde. Does he not even know the size of the Concorde? I mean, this is bonkers. I mean, this guy's going on the Mount Rushmore of Dunning-Kruger.
And it came with extra risks.
Well, actually, how do you know it came with extra risks if the average risk assessment, I think, is based on 100,000 flights and the Concorde never made 100,000. So if it continued to fly and didn't have any other issue, if that was a one-off issue, it could have possibly been safer than a 747. I mean, we don't know because it never made the amount of missions, the amount of flights to know that. Because 740, plenty more people have died on 747s than Concorde. Now, that doesn't mean it's safer or not safer, because there's not enough of a sample size. That's a question mark on whether or not it was riskier. They decided to not take the risk to find out if it's riskier. That's a completely separate issue. But again, I mean, Matt Walsh it seems like he's completely forfeited the use of all logic and reason because of this subject.
One crash of a Concorde jet, which eventually happened, was all it took. And the whole supersonic air travel industry was thrown on the scrap pile, and that is where it has stayed up until now.
What? It was never put on the scrap. What? Oh, man. Wow. All right, well, again, I mean, just a couple minutes on Wikipedia would have saved this goof so much humiliation. Let's look at supersonic transport. By the way, the Concorde wasn't even the only one of its kind. The desire for second-generation supersonic aircraft has remained within some elements of the aviation industry. Several concepts have emerged since the retirement of the Concorde. According to Aviation Week, the market for supersonic airlines costing $200 million could be $1,300 over a 10-year period, worth $260 billion. Development and certification is probably $4 billion operation. I mean, that's a really good margin there. Previous concepts: in November 2003, EADS, the parent company of Airbus, announced that it was considering working with Japanese companies to develop a larger, faster replacement for the Concorde. So pretty much immediately as it was retired, there were already plans going. So what scrap pile is Matt Walsh hallucinating? In October 2005, JAXA, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, undertook aerodynamic testing of a scale model of an airliner designed to carry 300 passengers at Mach 2. It pursued to commercial deployment. It would be expected to be in service around 2020 to 2025, so they're still working on it. Again, there's no scrap pile. They've been actively working on it since 2005. In May 2008, it was reported that the Air Corporation had $3 billion of pre-order sales. So they already had $3 billion of. I mean, if that's not the complete opposite of scrap pile, I don't know. I mean, we're not just talking about concepts. We're talking about this is already getting funded. This was on the Ariane SBJ supersonic business jet. In late 2010, the project continued with a testbed flight of a section of the wing. The Ariane AS2 was proposed as a 12-tier trijet with a range of 4,750 miles. Or 5,470 miles, rather, at Mach 1.4, or 6,100 miles, Mach 0.95 over land. Although boomless, Mach 1.1 flight was claimed to be possible. Backed by Airbus with 20 launch orders from FlexJet, the first deliveries were pushed back from 2023 by 2 years when GE Aviation was selected May 2017 for a joint engine study. In May 2021, the company announced that they would be ceasing operations due to inability to raise capital. So again, there's no scrap pile. They actively are trying to do this. Now, in this one particular company couldn't get it done, but they tried and they put a ton of money into it first. I mean, that's not a scrap pile. The SAI Quiet Supersonic Transport is a 12-passenger design from Lockheed Martin that is to cruise at Mach 1.6 and create a sonic boom only 1% as strong as that generated by the Concorde. I mean, that's definitely a step back. The supersonic Tupolev Tu-444 or Gulfstream X-54 have also been proposed. 26 to present, March 26 boom. 2016 Boom Technology revealed that it is in the development phases of building a 40-passenger supersonic jet capable of flying Mach 1.7, claiming that the design simulation shows that it'll be quieter and 30% more efficient than the Concorde, and will be able to fly LA to Sydney in 6 hours, planned to go into service 2029. For its economic viability, NASA research since 2006 has focused on reducing the sonic boom to allow supersonic flight over land. So again, it's not a black and white issue like Matt Walsh is hallucinating, because it's getting more and more efficient, and they want to be able to travel over land.
In 2016, NASA announced it had signed a contract for the design of a modern low-noise SST prototype. The designing team is led by Lockheed Martin Aeronautics. NASA should fly a low-boom demonstrator in 2019, reduced from double bangs to soft thumps by airframe shaping to inquire community response in support of a prospective FAA and ICAO ban lift in the early 2020s. So again, the other thing is there have been all of this oversight and bureaucracy that has been holding back some of this tech. That's another thing Matt Walsh is too clueless to understand. There's many different variables here. And this is, of course, would be a reductive logical fallacy, pretending and hallucinating all these variables don't exist, so he can just hand wave, oh, people got dumber, or whatever he's trying to claim here. The Lockheed Martin Q-59 QUESST X-plane will mimic the shockwave signature of Mach 1.6 to 1.8, 80 to 100 seat airliner for 75 PNLDB compared with 105 for the Concorde. The TSAGI exhibited at the 2017 MAKS Air Show in Moscow a scale model of its supersonic business jet commercial jet, which should produce a low sonic boom permitting supersonic flight over land optimized for 1,300 miles per hour cruise and 5,300 mile range. The scientific research aims to optimize for both Mach 0.8 to 0.9 transonic and Mach 1.5 to 2.0 supersonic speeds. A similar design is tested in a wind tunnel, while the engines are conceptualized at the Central Institute of Aviation Motors and Design are studied by Avia Dvigatel and NPO Saturn. So again, I mean, it's not just about the flight. They're constantly trying to make it more efficient while also dealing with restrictions from bureaucracies. So, I mean, Matt Walsh is this utterly clueless. He's hallucinating we went the other way, backward scrap pile, when literally the complete opposite happened. There are more and more efficient designs being researched and developed constantly since even before, during, and after the Concorde. I mean, just the level of goofery of Matt Walsh here. October 2017 NBAA convention in Las Vegas with NASA supporting only research. Various companies faced engineering challenges to propose aircraft with no engine available, variable top speed and operating models. Okay, so there's all these different designs and models. Of the 4 billion air passengers in 2017, over 650 million flew long haul between 2,000 and 7,000 miles, including 72 million in business and first class, reaching 128 million by 2025. Spike projects 13 million would be interested in supersonic transport then. October 2018, the reauthorization of the FAA planned noise standards for supersonic transports, giving developers a regulatory certainty for their designs, mostly their engine choice. So that's another thing Matt Walsh is too clueless to realize. Again, while spamming these reductive logical fallacies, I mean, these developers, they have to deal with noise standards that the Concorde apparently didn't have to deal with when it was first instituted. And that might have also played a role in its decommission, not just the crash. So there's all these different challenges, just like in other fields. That doesn't apply to going to the moon because there's no regulatory agency on the moon saying you're not allowed to land on the moon. I mean, this is the level of goofery we're dealing with Matt Walsh here. So, okay. Rules for supersonic flight testing authorization in the U.S. and noise certification will be proposed by the FAA by early 2019. The FAA should make a proposition for landing and takeoff noise before March 31st, 2020, and a rule for after 2022. For overland sonic boom, the end of 2020, while NASA plans to fly the Lockheed Martin X-59 low boom flight demonstrator from 2021 for ICAO standards in 2025. So all these different designs have to keep that in mind, as well as they're trying to be more efficient with the fuel. So again, technology always moving forward according to Moore's law, despite the hallucinations and the demonstrably false statements and logical fallacy spewings of Matt Walsh. I mean, a whole bunch of companies developing contracts. I mean, they're putting billions and billions of dollars into this. That's not a scrap pile. That's the opposite of a scrap pile. Furthermore, hypersonic transport is under development. While conventional turbo and ramjet engines are able to remain reasonably efficient up to Mach 5.5, some ideas for very high-speed flight above Mach 6 are also sometimes discussed with the aim of reducing travel times down to 1 to 2 hours anywhere in the world. I mean, that'd be convenient, especially beyond the Antarctic ice wall. These vehicle proposals very typically use either rocket or scramjet engines. Pulse detonation engines have also been proposed. There are many difficulties with such flight, both technical and economic. At the June 2011 Paris Air Show, EADS unveiled its ZEHST concept, cruising at Mach 4 at 105,000 feet and attracting Japanese interest. The German Spaceliner is a suborbital hypersonic winged passenger spaceplane project under preliminary development. So not only is there all this active development of supersonic transport, there's also hypersonic transport being developed as early as 2011, and I'm sure before that as well. The British company Reaction Engines Limited, with 50% EU money, has been engaged in a research program called LAPCAT, which examined a design for a hydrogen-fueled plane carrying 300 passengers called the A2, potentially capable of flying at Mach 5 plus, non-stop from Brussels to Sydney in 4.6 hours. The follow-on research effort, LAPCAT 2, began in 2008. So not only have they been constantly developing supersonic, but also hypersonic. But I guess Matt Walsh is just too utterly clueless to just spend a few minutes researching this. He just needs to humiliate himself reading these scripts put together by his handlers. I mean, it's kind of weird. I mean, there's a whole bunch. I mean, Boeing 2018 conference, Mach 6 passenger airliner, crossing Atlantic in 2 hours, Pacific in 3. Same day return flights. Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is wild. Mach 6 constantly being developed. So again, if these go into service, let's say in the 2030s as proposed, or even the 2040s for the hypersonics, I mean, it's just such a mass increase from the Concorde, it would all line up, unlike going to the moon or Mars. I just wanted to spend some time on that just to demonstrate the complete and utter goofery that Matt Walsh is spewing. Matt Walsh would have you believe they haven't always been developing supersonic and even hypersonic planes. I mean, insane, just insane. I mean, they're dumping billions upon billions of dollars into research and development for this. There's no scrap pile.
We did not build off of it.
Well, clearly we did. I just went over that.
We didn't continue in that direction. We just went backwards.
Well, not only continue in that direction, but even faster in that direction with the hypersonics on the way.
It's a sad story. It's a story of societal paralysis and decay, but it is not evidence that one of the most well-documented events in human history never happened. In fact, there is no evidence that the moon landing never happened. There is, again, zero evidence of this elaborate cinematic hoax.
So by no evidence, he means just ignoring all the evidence. I mean, this is what Matt Walsh is going with now. So obviously, EMF extraction is very interesting. I went over this on the Apollo series on MindShock. where according to EMF extraction, it looks like it's all artificial lighting in the alleged moon landing footage. Now, furthermore, you have a literal whistleblower that Matt Walsh, I guess, is too clueless to know about. 1 to 2 or even 3 whistleblowers. You have the obviously fake footage with all the wires that you can clearly see. You can see the astronauts being pulled up. You have the supposed moon rocks turning out to be petrified wood from Arizona. You have NASA admitting that they lost thousands of reels of telemetry data. You have the actual alleged raw video where the communication time delay doesn't even line up. You have actual simulations of what it would look like to walk or jump on the moon with 1/6 gravity, and you have what the purported moon footage is, which looks exactly like it was filmed on Earth at a different frame rate. And yet Matt Walsh is hallucinating that none of this exists. I mean, that's the level of goofery we're dealing with here. Not that it proves that they didn't go, but there's a mountain of evidence of fraud.
Now, I said that I was responding to their evidence, but what you may have noticed about their evidence is that it is not evidence. What the denialists have is a few easily debunked qualms with the generally accepted narrative. They have absolutely no positive evidence for their own narrative. Not one single piece of evidence. Not one witness, not one whistleblower with direct knowledge of the conspiracy, not one photo or video of this hoax being staged. Nothing. They found some holes in the moon landing story, holes that are totally imaginary, it turns out. And inside those holes, they have stuffed this whole story that they invented out of thin air, which is a problem because the moon landing hoax theory is not just a denial of something that happened, right? I'm not asking that you prove a negative. I'm not asking you to prove we never went to the moon. What proof is there that the moon landing was fake? What proof is there that the moon landing was fake? What proof is there that the moon landing was fake? The moon landing hoax is an assertion of an entirely different event that they claim did happen.
Again, fundamental misunderstanding of the shifting of the burden of proof fallacy. Because, first of all, there's a whole bunch of different conspiracies regarding the moon landing. But the most basic one, I mean, the starting position, one is not called upon to prove a negative. So if Matt Walsh is claiming that the moon landing is real, the burden is on him, not on somebody else. And I guess he just doesn't have the mental capacity to grasp that. I mean, I don't know.
And so what I'm saying is, where is your evidence that any of that happened? You have no evidence to indicate that this event occurred. None at all. Zero. Now, the moon landing on the other...
If only the screen was bigger, I could put even another mountain more. But there's already such a mountain of evidence. A bigger question, a better question would be, how much more evidence of a hoax could there be? I mean, do you need dozens and dozens of whistleblowers? I mean, how much more evidence could there be? Because if it was successfully pulled off, you wouldn't have that many people blowing the whistle. If it was really done that well, or just... See, going back to the 60s, you would think it probably would be easier to maintain a conspiracy, unlike today. Even with 9/11, even in 2001, I mean, there were people immediately jumping on the anomalies and coincidences, but for the most part, the masses were at least a few years off. But now, post 2020, I mean, pretty much every major event, there's people looking at it critically. But back in the 60s, not so much. So it's a whole different thing to say that there would definitely be tons of whistleblowers. But how much more evidence could there be of some kind of funny business? That's a question for Matt Walsh.
On the other hand, has reams and reams and reams of evidence. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos and videos from the surface, interviews with the astronauts who went there, footage from other lunar probes that have gone to the moon or orbited it. There's even a laser reflector that was left on the surface. You can bounce a laser off of it today.
Okay, so one step at a time. He's talking about reams and reams of evidence of the moon landing. What evidence? The thousands of reels of telemetry data that disappeared? The fake moon rocks? I mean, what evidence is he talking about? I mean, the footage that's clearly at a different frame rate that doesn't match 1/6 gravity? The wires you can see in the footage? I mean, what is he talking about? Regarding again, this would be a false cause logical fallacy and a reductive logical fallacy because they were bouncing lasers off the moon before any alleged moon mission. So again, if Matt Walsh is familiar with the scientific method, I'm not sure he is. How would you know whether you're bouncing it off the surface of the moon or off a reflector? Furthermore, if the moon can be landed on, obviously they could have landed a reflector there without a manned moon mission. Again, Matt Walsh just loves these false dichotomies. I mean, when you're going full vegetable, you gotta commit to the false dichotomy logical fallacies.
This is a real experiment that can be conducted right now today to confirm that the reflector was left there. Now, it'll take much more sophisticated equipment than the average person has laying around, but many people with the equipment have done the experiment because it measures the distance between the Earth and the Moon at any given time, and have confirmed this. Are they all in on it too? Has the conspiracy grown even larger now? Now, if all of this is not enough to believe that we landed on the Moon, then fine. But that means you also have to deny pretty much every historical event that has ever occurred.
Wow. That is totally a super dinger. So Matt Walsh thinks that if you deny the moon landing, you have to deny every single human event in history, all of the empirical verifiable events on Earth. You have to deny them if you deny the moon landing. I mean, this is beyond full vegetable now. He went full retard, then he went full vegetable. I mean, he's beyond full vegetable status now. I mean, this is insane. I've actually never heard a dumber argument than, I mean, he makes Neil Tyson look smart with this defense of the moon landing. I mean, this is just insane. According to Matt Walsh, so this straw man false equivalency, that you have to deny every major event in human history if you deny the moon landing. I mean, that if we had a super dinger, should we have super duper dingers? Is Matt Walsh going to necessitate super duper dingers? I mean, wow. Wow. This is bonkers. I mean, this is absolutely bonkers. I mean, is anybody in this much disbelief as me? I mean, this is just wow. Wow. If you deny something that allegedly happened on the moon, you have to deny every major event here on Earth, including all those with empirical, verifiable, definitive evidence. I mean, I'm truly mind shocked here. I mean, Matt Walsh has truly cemented a case for himself in the pantheon of Dunning-Kruger greats. I mean, this guy's going down all time.
There is more direct evidence of the moon landing than there is of almost any event that happened prior to the mid-20th century. We have more direct evidence of the moon landing than we do that George Washington existed. And yet, if I claim that George Washington's existence was a hoax, you would expect me to present extremely compelling, direct, positive evidence of the hoax.
Did he actually say that on purpose? Because there is a conspiracy theory that Adam Weishaupt of the founder of the Bavarian Illuminati, actually took George Washington's identity. And there's maybe I'll do a podcast on that. There's actually quite a bit of evidence for that based on at a certain year, I forgot the exact year, George Washington's paintings he has a completely different face. So supposedly the guy on the dollar bill is Adam Weishaupt and not George Washington. But anyway, again, here Matt Walsh is here proving that he doesn't understand the burden of proof logical fallacy. Whoever's claiming that George Washington was real, the burden is on them. I'll give this example one more time. If someone claims there's an invisible flying spaghetti monster in the sky and we have to pay taxes to the invisible flying spaghetti monster or we'll all be destroyed, it's not up to anybody to prove that the invisible flying spaghetti monster doesn't exist. It's up to whoever is peddling the positive claim. It's up to them to prove it. Yeah, I'll actually do a podcast on that. It's quite fascinating. Supposedly Thomas Jefferson and was George Washington's wife Martha Washington? I don't remember. Supposedly they knew about it too. So that'll be an interesting podcast. But anyway, if Matt Walsh is a shill, did he throw that in there on purpose?
And if I had none at all, you would laugh in my face, and deservedly so. Skepticism is healthy, but flatly denying a historical event in favor of a pet theory that has infinitely less evidence to support it than the event you're denying is not skepticism. It is dogmatism, which is the opposite of skepticism.
Wow, solid psychological projection from Matt Walsh. I mean, Matt Walsh, his subconscious accurately revealed his dogmatism, because no matter how much evidence is presented, it seems like he'll always keep the faith that the moon landing was real. I mean, no matter how much evidence, no matter how many thousands of reels of telemetry data are lost, no matter how many moon rocks are tested and found to be petrified wood from Arizona, no matter how many EMF extraction images people bring forth showing artificial lighting, no matter how many inconsistencies in the footage, no matter how many wires clearly sighted, no matter how many unnatural movements, no matter how much, just literally anything presented, Matt Walsh is going to dismiss it because his psychological projection here is on point. On point. Yeah, his baseline's getting crazy.
And that's why there is no evidence of the moon landing that will ever convince the deniers.
There's no evidence of it being hoaxed that will convince the true believers, like Matt Walsh, the NASA cultists, the NASA dogmatists, as he accurately psychologically projected.
No matter what you show them, they can explain it away with some totally ad hoc, arbitrary wave of the hand.
Man, his projection is so accurate. He clearly described what he did this entire video.
Photos won't convince them. Video won't convince them. First-hand testimony won't convince them. Eyewitnesses won't convince them. Lasers bouncing off of freaking reflectors planted on the moon's surface won't convince them. Nothing will. They have chosen to deny everything ahead of time. And in this case, what's being denied is one of the greatest achievements in human history. An achievement claimed by Americans for America.
Well, at least he got that right. Claimed. An achievement claimed. But yeah, his fallacy spew is impressive. Is anybody else impressed by his combo points? He's at 403 combo points. He hit the 10x and 100x multiplier a couple times. He's pretty impressive. I'm impressed. I didn't think he was going to be coming for the title this hard. He came hard.
The history of the West is constantly being rewritten by bored, spoiled people so as to diminish the accomplishments of our ancestors and deny their many incredible contributions to mankind. And in the end, This is all part of that agenda.
Again, circular reasoning, fallacy, false premise. But here's the issue with all of that. I mean, what he said is true. History is always being rewritten, but how does he know that the moon landing being faked wasn't part of the false history? Hallucinations? Blind faith in the corrupt? I mean, again, very silly, Matt Walsh, but he finished strong here. His psychological projection very accurately exposed him.
If there's any conspiracy going on here, there it is. And that is why the moon landing deniers are, with a great vengeance, canceled.
The final score is tabulated based on a weighted average. The baseline score counts for 40%. The fallacy per minute rate, 40%. The FPM rate is calculated based on the total amount of fallacies committed throughout the entire duration of the debate. Super fallacies count for 10%. Regular fallacies, 5%. Fallacy combos, 5%. The weighted average determines the final score. Highest score wins.
Wow. So his score, his FPM was a staggering 19.22 fallacies per minute. I mean, absolutely staggering. I mean, this is incredible. This is absolutely incredible. I mean, he completely shattered Sartain's record. 19.22 fallacies per minute. Sartain's was 6.69. Now, this is the solo division, so it's not apples to apples. It's not apples to apples, because Sartain was debating with other debaters. So that's the debate division. Sartain is the champion of the debate division with 6.69. Now, Matt Walsh is our new champion. He's our new Dunning-Kruger champion of the solo division. So when it's not an official debate and it's just a single person making a case about something, this is the solo division. And I don't know if we'll ever see anybody break 19.22 fallacies per minute. I mean, that is staggering. Also, his non-fallacy streak, his longest time without a fallacy was 54 seconds. So out of over 18 minutes, in over 18-minute presentation, the longest he went without a fallacy was 54 seconds. I mean, we got a new contender. I mean, he's in the running for all-time great with this one. I mean, this has truly elevated him into the top echelon of Dunning-Kruger champions. I mean, this is truly impressive. I mean, this is truly impressive. So that his, I didn't do a fallacy per second, but it would be 0.32 fallacies per second. Yes, one fallacy every 3 seconds. Well, also, I allowed him to keep that advertisement for that Christian college in there, which was probably close to a minute. If we actually took that out, this would be even worse. And the 54-second streak was not the ad. So, because I didn't count the ad as his streak. His streak was in his active presentation on the moon landing. So he got 13 super dingers in 18 minutes. I mean, that's impressive. So he got 346 fallacies in 18 minutes, 19 super fallacies, 21 dingers, and 403 fallacy combo points. Yeah, let's give a round of applause. Let's give a round of applause for Matt Walsh. I mean, this was impressive. I mean, he came hard for this title. And he deserves it. I mean, anybody working this hard, I mean, his effort, you can't deny his tenacity. His tenacity in coming for this Dunning-Kruger title. I mean, he went full retard, he went full vegetable, he went beyond full vegetable for some of his arguments. Kill the Bank says we're going to have to do a solo 1v1, 2v1, 3v3 division. Oh, man, I don't know about... That's too many divisions. I think we should just do debate and solo. But, I mean, you're right. It would be more fair, but... I mean, I don't know. That's too many divisions. I mean, I guess we could do 1v1 and then more than 1v1. So 2v1 or more division. So we could have 3 divisions. Maybe. I don't know. Jules says Craig will beat this guy. I mean, so far, nobody's stacked higher than, I think, 4 fallacies at once other than Craig. Craig did an 11 stack in a single statement. The weird thing is Matt Walsh is actually fairly intelligent. If you watch any other... I've never seen him humiliate himself even a little bit. I mean, this video was just complete demolition of himself. But he actually looks pretty good in other debates. Mr. One-to-One said, Craig solo will destroy him. I mean, look at his baseline score. I actually never even thought anybody would be clearing maybe 200. But, I mean, Walsh hit that multiplier a number of times. I mean, I thought Craig would be the only guy hitting multipliers. But, I mean, Matt Walsh hit some multipliers. I mean, it was impressive. Impressive. I mean, absolutely impressive. So what are the final thoughts here? He also managed 0 zingers. I mean, 0. That's kind of astonishing. I actually thought he probably would get a couple of zingers in there. He's usually pretty good at those. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this was just bonkers. This was just absolutely bonkers. Dave Scott said, clearly shilling, he's usually very articulate. I mean, at the beginning, there was definitely, looked like there was some looks of shame on his face, but maybe he just got better into character. Mr. One-to-One said, Craig tying his shoelace deserves some recognition. Oh, man, Craig is truly one of a kind, but we have to appreciate Matt Walsh here. I mean, this 287 score, I mean, it's just astonishing. I mean, I could bring up Sartain's estimated score based on the new system. I didn't have an actual... Because this is the first time the new system was implemented. But let me look at Sartain's estimated score from his debate with Flat Earth Dave and Jeranism, where he earned his Dunning-Kruger title. So his estimated final score would have been 167.776. But that was not solo. And that would have been with a baseline of 215. Craig's estimate would have been 618 baseline with a total score of 298. And that was in debate. That was non-solo. So who knows? I mean, we'll see. We have to implement this. Yeah, well, so as of right now, Matt Walsh is the solo champ, and we'll probably, yeah. I mean, maybe I'll redo some of the old ones with the new system, but for right now, I'm gonna be doing some new debates with the new system. A lot of people requested Austin Whitsitt, so we'll have to do a lot of Austin Whitsitt debates. I do have 2 or 3 other debates that I almost finished going through that I might not use the new system for just because they were almost done anyway. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't know. Based on the weighted averages, I think this is a good metric. And I think most people will never be hitting that 100x multiplier anywhere near as much as the Matt Walshes and Craigs of the world. But who knows? Some people think PhD Tony or that Leo goof from Modern Day Debate or even T-Jump. I mean, and Destiny, of course. I mean, those guys could probably all give Matt Walsh and Craig a run for their money. So we'll see. We'll have to see. And of course, the reigning, defending, undisputed Dunning-Kruger champion, Michael Sartain. So that's it for now. Plenty more to come. Hope everybody found another edition of the MindShock podcast interesting and informative. If you want to help support the channel, help logic and reason return to a world where it is quickly going extinct, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell for notifications. You could also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Like and share Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind. Leave them in the comments section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.